Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about what if Naruto x Annabeth and Percy Jackson. Before I start, please support for more amazing content and do consider subscribing to my channel and share this video with your friends. This is written by Xizuma and link in the description and support writer. Let's start the video. Under the hood. Billy Goat huffed as he ran through the forest, his hooves stepping on nearby twigs and leaves as he led a child through the bushes and trees, his vision limited due to the night. He glanced at the kid whose hand he was holding. The kid was young, no older than 9, and had a look of panic and fear in her stormy gray eyes, darting left and right in paranoia. They're gonna catch up with us, Billy. The little girl told the satyr, worry evident in her tone. Sounds of howling and growling were heard, and the goat looked behind him. 4 enormous hellhounds chased after them, their red glowing eyes staring at him. Billy yelped and increased his pace to get more distance away from creatures. Just keep running, Lily, don't look back. He tightened his grip on the child as they ran faster. The satyr prayed to the gods above that they would make it. Or, at least Lily would make it to Camp Half-Blood. As they continued running, the satyr eventually saw a clearing, and soon, both demigod and satyr emerged from the forest and into the clearing. Billy looked around frantically, his eyes finding any place for them to hide. Out of the corner of his eye, the satyr spotted an old, abandoned house just a few distances away. Grabbing Lily's hand, the satyr immediately ran to the house. The house itself was run down and old. Cobwebs found almost all around the corners of the porch, stairs leading to the porch had a missing plank and could look to be broken should any weight be placed on it. Windows were cracked and destroyed, and the stills accumulated dust over time. The wooden house's planks were chipped and rotten, showing how long the house was unoccupied. Thankfully, the door was intact so the two could enter. Billy rushed in with Lily and closed the door. Die Immortales, this place stinks. Billy covered his nose in disgust as a putrid smell of rotting flesh that were thankfully not human entered his nostrils. The satyr also noticed Lily noticing the smell, judging by the way her face cringing and her little nose crinkling. This place smells funny, Billy. She said, copying the satyr's action and covered her nose. You just ignore it for now. Billy said, ignoring the smell. The satyr looked around the house before spotting a closet in the broken kitchen. The howl from the outside alerted him and he took Lily's hand and led her to the closet. Hide in here for now. Billy instructed as more howls were heard. Lily nodded and silently climbed inside the closet and whimpered slightly. I'm scared, Billy. The satyr tried to give the 9-year-old his best, albeit shaky, smile as he could. Don't worry, you'll be fine. He reassured her even as his own heart was pounding in terror. Closing the closet, the satyr let out a startled bleat as the main entrance door broke and growls penetrated the house. Quickly scrambling for a place to hide. The satyr ran to the living room and ducked behind the couch big enough to cover him. He tried to calm his breathing as sounds of sniffs hit his ears. He closed his eyes tightly and covered his mouth, his knees shaking slightly. He dared not to make a sound as the sounds of sniffing were heard throughout the abandoned wooden house. One hellhound approached the living room and Billy stifled an unintentional bleat that escaped his mouth. The hellhound paused at sniffing and looked up at his direction. Billy slapped his forehead and repeatedly. Stupid, stupid, stupid. The hellhound growled and snarled, approaching the dusty couch. Billy started hyperventilating, his furry legs shuffling every now and then as the shadow creature neared him. As the growl became louder and louder, Billy's eyes screwed shut and stifled another bleat. I'm going to die. He thought hopelessly, his sweat trailing down his face. By now, the growl was practically next to him and the satyr prayed for someone to save him. For once, his prayers were answered. Metallic whizzing was heard before an object hit the hellhound in the head, sending the creature down with a thud. Sounds of footsteps approached the downed hellhound. Billy peeked from his hiding place. Due to the limited light that entered through the window, all the satyr saw was 2 black combat boots and navy blue pants. The figure crouched down, his back facing the satyr, and Billy saw he was wearing dark brown jacket with the collars popped out and a crimson red spiral symbol stitched to the back, followed by 2 gray gauntlets covering his forearms and elbows. The satyr watched as the figure took out what looked to be a sleek black knife and brought it over his head and swiftly brought it down, ending the hellhound's life. The creature whimpered and whined before dissolving into golden dust, a black small pelt of fur remained. Billy stayed silent as the figure stood up. A small, metallic 3-pointed star landed near him and Billy yelped in surprise. Last warning. The figure's voice growled, though Billy noted it seemed muffled. Come out. Immediately the satyr rushed out of the dusty couch and placed his hands up in surrender. Don't kill me. I'm a satyr. Billy frantically whispered. The gloved hand clamped his mouth as to avoid attracting attention and the figure fully came to view. He was a few inches smaller than him, if Billy would have guessed, 5'9". His savior was wearing a red helmet with 2 black angular lenses acting as eyes and gray mechanical panels on the sides of his helmet. Lines were connected to the corners of his eye lenses which led all the way to the back of his helmet and mouth. Underneath his brown jacket was navy blue jumpsuit zipped all the way up and a gray turtleneck. 2 chest plates covered either side of his pectorals and a gray belt covered his waist. On his legs was a gray harness with 2 pouches that the satyr guessed kept the helmeted figure's weapons, such as the black knife and 3 pointed stars. "Pipe it down." The figure shushed him, pointing at the kitchen where the remaining hellhounds were. Billy's eyes widened in terror and removed the figure's hand from his mouth. "Lily. She's in there with those hellhounds." He panicked, bleats coming out from his mouth. Quickly the helmeted figure clamped the satyr's mouth again. "Quiet. You trying to get us killed?" His savior hissed at him, to which Billy shook his head rapidly. "Good." The figure removed his hand from the satyr. "Now, were you talking about the kid you were with?" He questioned him. Billy nodded and the figure turned to look at the sniffing hellhounds. "Where is she?" The satyr pointed a shaky finger towards a brown, dusty closet in the kitchen. The figure stayed silent for a minute before he spoke again. "I have a plan. I'll take out 2 of those hellhounds, you distract the 3rd one while I get the kid out of there." Billy paled when he heard the last one. "Wait a sec, I'm gonna be bait." He stammered with fear. He did not like this plan. "Not one bit. Quit squirming, it'll only be a second." The figure ordered him. With that said, the figure couched and silently sneaked towards the kitchen. Leaning against the wall, the figure waited as a hellhound sniffed along the ground and stopped just beside the helmeted figure. Quickly grabbing its muzzle, the creature struggled and whined but was silenced by a knife to the neck. The figure drove his knife further in the hellhound's neck before twisting it. The creature whimpered but eventually dissolved into golden dust. Peeking from his cover, the figure watched the 2 remaining hellhounds inspecting the broken kitchen, searching every corner of the room. The figure turned to look at Billy and held up his hand, 3 fingers raised. The satyr noticed this and nodded, calming himself. 3, 2, 1. "Hey uglies." Billy shouted, his voice echoing off the house. The 2 hellhounds snapped their heads towards the satyr and growled, slowly approaching the half-human half-goat. Billy placed both of his hands on each leg with a smirk. "Want a meal? Well, here's one, juicy goat meat." The satyr offered. Though inwardly Billy was screaming in the inside. "Die immortals. Why in Hades did I agree to this?" One hellhound grew impatient and rushed at its prey, never noticing the other hellhound getting stabbed, then dissolving into dust. All of Billy's bravado disappeared and he screamed. As soon as the hellhound leaped at him, the familiar sound of metal whizzing hit the satyr's sensitive ears and the creature was embedded to a wall, one metal shuriken stuck on its head. Billy slowly opened his eyes and sighed in relief and sent his savior a thankful look. "Thank you." The helmeted figure merely grunted. "Don't mention it." The satyr approached the closet and opened it. Inside, Lily was shaking, she opened her gray eyes now red and puffy. Seeing the satyr, Lily was immediately filled with relief and happiness, and the 9-year-old launched herself to the satyr. "Billy." She cried out happily, hugging him tightly. Billy chuckled as he set the little girl down. Lily smiled at the satyr and turned around. As soon as she saw the helmeted figure across from them, the girl hid behind Billy's legs and let out a whimper. Billy saw this and his eyes softened. "Whoa, now he started. Don't worry Lily, he's a friend, trust me." Even as he assured her, Lily didn't budge and continued to hide behind the satyr. The figure sighed and approached the 2. Billy stepped aside as the figure knelt down in front of the girl. "It's okay, I'm not a monster." The figure said. Lily glared at him, puffing her cheeks as she did, though it only made her look cuter to the Billy. "How would I know that? You didn't even show us your face." She accused, pointing a finger. The figure looked at Billy who shrugged with a small smile on his face. The satyr's savior sighed and grumbled under his breath. Grabbing his red helmet visor by the sides, he slowly lifted the red helmet. A hiss was heard as he removed his helmet. The figure's face was young. If Billy had to guess again, he looked to be 13, just 4 years older than Lily. He had a tanned face, his hair was blonde, untamed and spiky. He had blue eyes and 3 scars on each side of his face. The blonde smiled at Lily. "See? I'm not a monster," or was heard outside, and the blonde and satyr snapped their heads towards the entrance. "More hellhounds found us," Billy whispered. The blonde growled, putting his helmet visor on, he turned to the panicking satyr. "Stay with the kid." The blonde instructed before glaring at the entrance. "I'll handle this." Stepping outside the abandoned house. The blonde was greeted by 5 more hellhounds, each snarling at him. Taking a kunai from his pouch, the blonde immediately rushed to the nearest hellhound. The creature growled and leaped at him, the blonde ducked and stabbed its underbelly as it stayed in air. Kicking the dissolving creature, the helmeted blonde quickly chucked a shuriken which hit another hellhound in the face. Running to another hellhound, he tackled said creature and pinned the hellhound. The creature beneath him snarled and barked, desperately struggling to break free. Hearing another growl from behind, the blonde waited for a moment before dodging to the left. watching as the hellhound from behind bite the pinned hellhound's exposed throat. As the hellhound finished feasting on its kin, the blonde drove kunai on the side of its head. The blonde twisted the knife as another hellhound ran at him. He chucked the kunai towards the rushing hellhound while the stabbed hellhound dissolved, hitting the last one right between the eyes. The blonde sighed and rolled his shoulders, taking the black kunai from the last hellhound. "Damn mutts," he muttered in annoyance. "That was so cool." "Eh?" The blonde turned around and saw Billy and Lily walking towards him, running in Lily's case. The little demigod soon stopped in front of him and the blonde was assaulted by a barrage of questions by the little girl. "Where did you learn to do that? Were you taught by someone or was it self-taught? How did you get your weapons? Did you make them?" The blonde was stunned to say the least as the gray-eyed girl interrogated him. Billy put a hand on the little girl's shoulder, a smile on his face. "I think he may needs rest for a bit, Lily," he stated before looking at the blonde with a sheepish smile on his face. "Sorry about that." He apologized on the little girl's behalf. The blonde shrugged in response. It's fine. I'm used to it." He waved the apology off, looking at the sky. More howls were heard. "Not a good sign. I suggest you two camp here for at least tonight, too dangerous around these times." The blonde advised, to which the satyr agreed. The next morning, at the crack of dawn, Billy stood outside the decrepit house, waiting for Lily to get ready. The satyr leaned against the porch, his hand placed atop the rotting wood, and he turned to the unmasked blonde next to him. "You know, I never actually got your name last night," he said, causing the blonde to look at the satyr. After a few moments of thinking, the blonde spoke. "Naruto, my name's Naruto," Naruto stated. The satyr looked at the blonde with curiosity in his eyes. "Naruto? As in, fish cake?" He snickered, to which Naruto glared at the satyr. "It means maelstrom, damn it," he corrected the satyr sternly. "I'm ready to go, Billy." Lily's voice rang out as she stepped out the house. The satyr nodded and glanced at Naruto. "You coming with us too? I mean, by your scent I could already tell you're a demigod, so how about come with us to camp?" Billy offered to the 13-year-old. Though it went unnoticed to the satyr, for the briefest moments, the blonde had a look of conflict on his face. Memories started rushing to him. The image of a girl in punk-like clothing. Followed by an image of a boy with short sandy blonde hair. Then a little girl with stormy gray eyes and curly blonde hair. Another memory flashed. "Ailey and I will hold it back. Luke, get Annabeth out of here." "What do you think you're doing, Naru? You can't. Just go, Luke. We'll hold them off." His hand slowly turned into a fist. "You'll promise you and Thalia will come back, right? It's a promise of a lifetime, Annie." "Yo. Naruto, you okay, man?" the satyr called out. Naruto flinched and snapped out of his musings. "Huh?" the blonde responded. Billy held a look of concern on his face. "I asked if you wanted to come with us to Camp Half-Blood, a sanctuary and home for demigods." Naruto looked up. "Camp, huh?" he repeated. The blonde stayed quiet before he smirked and put on his helmet visor. "Sure, count me in, Bayo." The satyr grinned in return. "Come on then, let's go." Grasping Lily's hand, the three started walking. Underneath his red mask, a small smile started to form on the blonde boy's lips. "Luke, Annabeth, I'm coming back." Shortly after they left the abandoned and rotten house, Billy and Lily, now accompanied by Naruto, resumed their way to Camp Half-Blood. Soon, the trio arrived in the southeastern part of New York. By the time they did reach the southeastern part of New York, it was already evening, so the three decided to rest at a nearby forest. From what Billy told them, they would be nearing Camp Half-Blood. Naruto yawned as stretched. Taking his brown leather jacket off, the blonde removed his red helmet and placed them aside on a tree stump. He glanced at the satyr with them as he made a makeshift bed using leaves and sticks for Lily. Said demigod rubbed her eyes tiredly and sat down near the bonfire in the middle, holding her hands out for warmth. They were all tired, having to travel without rest all day could do that to you. Lily soon stood up and walked towards her makeshift bed and lied down. "Naru?" The blonde turned to his head and looked at the sleepy girl. Can you tell me a bedtime story?" Lily asked as she shifted in her makeshift bed. Her gray eyes staring at him. Naruto was caught in surprise. "Oh, sure." He answered uneasily. Fighting was one thing, but the blonde didn't know jack on how to deal with these kind of situations. Stepping away from the tree trunk he was leaning against, he sat down next to the little girl. "So, once upon a time," the blonde started. "There were 4 adventurers. One girl with a shield and spear, one boy with a sword, another girl with a dagger, and lastly, one boy with a knife called a kunai." Lily looked confused at the last word. "Kunai?" She rolled the word around her tongue, trying to get used to the peculiar word. Naruto nodded. "Yeah, a kunai." The blonde took said knife out of his pouch. "Like yours?" Naruto grinned a bit and nodded. "Yup." He answered. Holstering the kunai, the blonde continued. Anyway, the girl with the spear was brave, strong, and caring. The boy with the sword was selfless and heroic. The girl with the dagger was smart, caring, and loyal. As Naruto described the adventurers, a small nostalgic smile crept on his face. And lastly, the boy with the kunai was hot-headed, stubborn, but brave. He was also really cool too. Tebeo. The blonde grinned, to which Lily giggled at his antics. The four adventurers went around the world, protecting and caring for each other in need. They were happy, and their bond was strong. They were like one happy family. There was a hint of something else in Naruto's tone as he told the story, though it went unnoticed by Lily. The four adventurers were in a quest, and they were trapped by monsters. They fought with all they got, but in the end they got underwhelmed. The girl with the spear sacrificed herself so that the three adventurers could live. What happened next? A small, sad smile replaced Naruto's nostalgic one. After the girl's sacrifice, the three adventurers honor her name by watching each other's backs and staying by each other's sides at all time. The blonde glanced at the little girl. Lily yawned cutely, and soon, sleep overtook her and she slept with a small smile on her face. Naruto smiled softly at the sight, grabbing his leather jacket, the blonde gently draped it over the little girl, acting as a form of blanket. Scooting to the side, Naruto shoved a hand in a pocket in his navy blue jumpsuit. The blonde soon retracted his hand which now held three old, worn photos. The photo depicted a sandy blonde boy wearing a ragged makeshift leather armor over a t-shirt, sitting next to a black-haired girl wearing punk-like clothing. Next to the girl was a small girl with blonde curls and gray eyes. Besides the gray-eyed girl was a younger Naruto wearing a black t-shirt and jeans. All looked happy and content, as if there were no problems in the world. Naruto shifted his hand and looked at the next photo. The next one showed him holding a steaming bowl of ramen with a megawatt grin on his face. The last photo showed both him and the blonde-haired girl with curls from the first photo. They were both sleeping, a bit of drool escaping his lips, leaning against a wall, while the girl's head was resting on the crook of his neck. The blonde's eyes slowly watered, and soon, a tear escaped his eye. The tear traveled down his cheek and hit the last photo. More teardrops appeared on the photos as Naruto stared at the photos. "Am I crying?" The blonde blinked and furiously wiped the tears away. Pocketing the photos, Naruto sighed and looked up at the sky. He watched as the clouds moved and twisted. "The stars are pretty tonight," he absent-mindedly thought. Gazing at the sky almost always seemed to calm him down. He sighed once more and rested his head against a fallen tree trunk. "I need to get some sleep." With that thought in mind, Naruto closed his eyes and tried to rest. "Are you watching over us, Thalia?" Naruto shot up from the tree trunk he was leaning against, his tanned skin covered in sweat, and he was breathing heavily. He wiped the sweat from his face and grunted. He stood up and made sure to check on Lily and Billy. He glanced to his side. Lily was sleeping soundly, her little body covered by his jacket. By her smile, she looked to sleep well. He tore his gaze from the girl and looked at the satyr across from him. Billy snored away from his makeshift bed, often mumbling and tossing. He rubbed his face with a gloved hand, something he would often do to calm his nerves. He often had nightmares, one of the reasons he may or may not be an insomniac. Though this nightmare in particular unnerved him greatly, and that was saying something. After everything he had been through, things he had seen, he was immune to most things. The scream rang out and the blonde snapped his head to the side. "The hell?" Naruto rushed to Billy and shook him awake. The satyr snorted and opened his eyes. "Naruto. What are you?" "No time, we have to get out of here." The blonde interrupted the satyr with a rushed voice. "Hurry up, I'll wake up Lily." Billy nodded as Naruto moved and shook Lily gently. The girl yawned and blinked several times. "Naru," she said when she caught sight of the blonde. Naruto looked apologetic, taking his leather jacket and putting his red helmet on. "No time to explain, we need to move," he urgently replied. The sound of something crashing was heard, quickly followed by a roar. The trio immediately left their resting spot and headed towards the direction of the sound. As soon as they reached the origin of the sound, Naruto froze at the sight in front of him, Lily and Billy, stopping when the blonde did. A minotaur. The blonde crouched, forcing both of his companions to do the same, as to not to alert the monster. Billy paled once he saw the raging beast. Bleats and whimpers escaped his mouth as he shook. Naruto ignored the satyr and squinted his eyes when he saw three figures getting out off a car that would Naruto assumed the minotaur flipped. One figure however caught his eye and he almost shouted right then and there. "Grover." True to his eyes, before him was Grover Underwood, a satyr that tried to escort him to Camp Half-Blood years ago. Beside the satyr was a black-haired, green-eyed boy who looked to be the same age as him. Both ran towards a pine tree in panic as the minotaur searched for something in the crashed car. Naruto's eyes widened when a woman that resembled the black-haired boy was forcefully grabbed by the minotaur. "Save her." The helmeted blonde ran from his hiding spot, ignoring Billy's cry. It was too late, Naruto watched, frozen, as the woman dissolved into golden dust. The blonde snarled and charged at the Minotaur. Damn you. Taking out 3 shurikens, Naruto threw the 3-pointed star towards the half-man half-bull. The Minotaur brought its arm to block the projectiles, roaring as it did. The man-bull in turn charged at the blonde, unknowingly dodging the black-haired boy that attempted to charge at him. The Minotaur growled and tried to impale the blonde using its horns. Naruto dodged to the left and grabbed its horn at the side. Using the horn, the blonde flipped and landed on the Minotaur's back. He quickly took out a kunai and drove it between the man-bull's shoulder blades. The Minotaur roared in pain, attempting to reach the blonde only for him to jump from his back. Naruto landed on the ground softly and charged at the bull once again, only for the black-haired boy from before beat him to it and ran at the Minotaur. The man-bull roared and backhanded the boy. The black-haired boy ducked and attempted to punch the monster. The Minotaur blocked the boy's attack and kicked him, sending the boy crashing next to the blonde. The green-eyed boy groaned. Standing up, the boy started to charge again, only to be stopped by an outstretched hand. "Here." The owner of the appendage offered. The black-haired boy looked at the helmet-wearing stranger, then looked at his hand. On the stranger's hand was a sleek and black knife. "You're gonna need it." The boy looked at it before shaking his head, confusing the blonde. The black-haired boy took out a pen from his pocket and uncapped it, unleashing a bronze leaf-shaped sword. The green-eyed boy soon charged at the Minotaur once again. The red-helmeted blonde shrugged before joining the black-haired boy. He swung at the Minotaur only to be blocked. The man-bull snarled and attempted to grab the boy. The green-eyed boy quickly rolled away and thrusted his sword, albeit sloppily. The Minotaur easily dodged the attack and successfully grabbed the boy. Using its superhuman strength, the Minotaur roared and threw the boy like a ragdoll with ease. Grover let out a cry of Percy and came to the boy's side, checking the boy over. Naruto glanced at the satyr and now unconscious Percy before turning back at the Minotaur. It snarled, air escaping its nostrils, and charged at him. Naruto smirked from behind his mask and outstretched both of his arms, like he was holding a cape. "Ole." The blonde taunted, angering the monster more. Just as the Minotaur came in contact, Naruto grabbed its head and jumped over it, kicking the monster while he did. Grabbing another handful of shurikens, he launched them at the Minotaur. The metallic throwing stars whizzed and hit their target. The beast roared again and rounded on the blonde, who was still in midair, and charged. Grabbing the blonde's leg, the Minotaur slammed the helmet-wearing blonde on the ground repeatedly, then throwing the blonde at a tree. Naruto groaned as he slid down the trunk. He saw the Minotaur coming once again and stood up, albeit shakily. Holding his kunai in a reverse grip, the blonde waited with bated breath as the beast neared again. The blonde ducked when the man-bull tried to grab him again and uppercutted it. The Minotaur backed away, startled. Naruto quickly took the advantage and drove his kunai in the beast's exposed throat. Naruto gritted his teeth and forced the knife some more, twisting it for good measure. Removing the kunai from its throat, the Minotaur staggered back, holding its throat. Wasting no time, Naruto stabbed the monster on the chest, retracting his small blade and stabbing it again. After a few more stabs, the Minotaur roared and dissolved into dust, a horn in its place acting as a reward. Naruto panted and walked towards the satyr tending to the black-haired boy. Grover looked up when the sounds of footsteps hit his ears, gently setting the unconscious Percy down. He thanked him profusely. "Thank you. I can't express how we would have been dead if you hadn't." Whatever Grover was saying, Naruto didn't hear as he faded in and out of consciousness. Soon the blonde promptly passed out and fell on Grover, who caught him. "Whoa. You alright?" Footsteps were heard again, and the satyr looked to the side and saw another satyr holding a little girl with gray eyes running towards him. "Naruto." The satyr shouted worriedly. "Wait, Naruto." Grover snapped his head to the knocked-out male. Setting him down next to Percy, the satyr took a hold of the red helmet and gently removed it. A familiar mop of blonde, spiky hair and whiskered marks met the satyr. "Naruto." Grover cried out happily as he held onto the blonde. "It really is you." The satyr from before reached Grover and sent him a curious look. "You know him?" he asked. Grover quickly hoisted Naruto up and looked at his fellow satyr. "Yeah, I'll explain later. Grab Percy over there and let's get back to camp." The satyr jerked his head towards the black-haired boy. Lily nodded, removing his hand from Lily. He also took the unconscious boy and lifted him. "Come on, Lily." The little girl nodded eagerly and followed the two satyrs to camp. "Id? What? Kid?" The voice became clearer as the 7-year-old blonde shifted in his sleep. "Kid. Ah." The blonde fully awoke and shot up from where he was sleeping. His blue eyes scanning his surroundings in panic. It was daytime, early morning if had to guess. He was in a forest, covered by a sleeping bed too big for him. In the middle was an extinguished campfire. At the side, sitting on a log, was a man with spiked gray hair that reached down to his waist and was tied back into a ponytail, 2 red lines going down on each corner of his eyes. The gray-haired man's eyes lit up when he saw the blonde awake. Finally. Been trying to wake you for the whole morning. He grinned at him. Naruto blinked before looking at the man. Where am I? The small blonde asked until he stood up in panic. Where's Thalia? Luke, Annabeth. I need to find them. He cried out, his eyes darting left to right. The man next to the campfire raised his hands up. Whoa, kid, calm down. Geez, he sighed, take a deep breath and ask slowly. The older man ordered. Naruto did as he was told and inhaled before exhaling. Who are you? The small blonde asked. Naruto took note on how the man seemed to grin when he asked this. Instantly the gray-haired man stood up from his log and jumped to another log beside and struck a dramatic pose. Who am I? I am the great Jiraiya. One of the best fighters you'll ever see. Jiraiya bragged as he did another pose. Also known as the Toad Hermit. Naruto just blankly stared at him as Jiraiya jumped down and rummaged through a bag near him before taking out a small orange book. I'm sure heard of me. He said, grinning as he held the book. Naruto widened his eyes at the sight of the small book and pointed at it. That's while he hadn't really read what was inside it. He once saw Luke reading a copy of the book before it was thrown away by an angry Thalia. Even he didn't had to guess what was the contents judging by the cover itself. You're a pervert. The small child shouted. Jiraiya seemed to take offense to Naruto's accusation and glared at him. You fool. I am no ordinary pervert, he paused. I'm a super pervert. Jiraiya declared with pride. That's even worse. Jiraiya scoffed and grumbled as he placed the book back in his bag. HMPH, how could a kid like you understand literature? Youngsters these days, he mumbled. Jiraiya cleared his throat and turned to Naruto again. Anyway, what else are you going to ask? Naruto looked around and his shoulders slumped. Where did you find me? At the blonde's question, Jiraiya turned serious. Long Island, at a hill. You were surrounded by a bear. I managed to fend it off and took you here. Jiraiya told the boy and crossed his arms. The hell were you doing there, kid? Where were your parents? The man asked. At the mention of parents, Naruto looked down and clenched his fists. I don't have any. I'm an orphan. Jiraiya looked softened and frowned. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know. He apologized. Naruto sighed. Was there anyone with me? He asked softly. Jiraiya shook his head. No. From what I saw, you were alone. Why? Naruto sighed in relief at the man's answer. He at least hoped Grover managed to escort Annabeth and Luke safely to camp. Nothing. The blonde said, but Jiraiya didn't buy it. Does this concern Thalia, Luke, and Annabeth? He questioned. Immediately Naruto took a fighting stance and glared at the man. How do you know those names? The boy demanded. Jiraiya raised a brow at the kid's stance and shook his head. The kid's stance was not bad for someone his age. From what Jiraiya could see, his footing was all wrong and could trip at any moment, but overall not bad for a brat his age. You keep on muttering those names when you slept. The older man said, before looking up to the sky and sighed. Look, brat, Naruto scowled at the nickname. How about we continue this when we have our stomachs full? How's Raymond sound to you? Jiraiya offered and Naruto could not help but agree. Raymond sounded good right now. As Grover carried Naruto, the blonde's red helmet in his other hand, running towards a large house. He glanced at the boy behind his back who was drifting in and out of consciousness. Don't worry, bud. We'll patch you and Percy up. Naruto struggled to stay conscious as they neared the house. Everything was blurry and he couldn't see clearly. All faded to black again and the blonde fought to stay awake. Both neared the house and Naruto could make out two figures on the house porch. One of the figures was that of a man with thinning brown hair and bushy eyebrows who looked to be in his mid-40s to 50s. His upper body was normal while his lower was that of a horse. The next figure was a girl who looked to be the same age as him. All he could see before he truly succumbed to unconsciousness was a familiar pair of gray eyes and curly blonde hair and a look of shock mixed with happiness on her face. Howls filled the air as 5 hellhounds stalked an alleyway in Richmond. The creatures growled, permanent snarls on their faces as they sniffed along the narrow way. On the far end of the alleyway, behind a dumpster. 7-year-old Naruto held a small knife to his chest as he tried to calm himself down as to not catch the attention from the hounds he was hiding from. He didn't know why he, some no-named orphan living in the streets, had been chased around Richmond by these creatures. But he didn't care, all he wanted to do now was to survive. The boy stifled his breath as one creature got too close for comfort. Naruto closed his eyes as he tried to calm his beating heart. Before he knew it, the sound of something sharp hit one of the hounds he couldn't see from his hiding place, and the hellhound that almost caught him ran to the attacker. Sounds of fighting was what the boy could hear. Naruto took a risk and peeked at the ongoing fight. He saw a black-haired girl with a spear and one shield that looked older than him strike at one hellhound while an older sandy blonde boy slashed at another. In the middle of the two was a blonde girl that was the same age as him, standing with a bronze dagger in her hand as she helped the two. Naruto watched in amazement as his 3 saviors fought off the 5 hellhounds. However, just as the blonde girl killed one hellhound, another tackled her to the ground, making her drop the dagger in the process. Annie. The black-haired girl screamed as she fended off one hellhound. The sandy blonde boy from earlier too busy with another hellhound. The whiskered blonde watched in horror as the creature snapped its jaws at the frightened girl. He gripped his knife tightly before deciding enough was enough and charged at the creature with a roar. Leave her alone. Both Thalia and Luke stared in shock as a whiskered 8-year-old blonde kid dashed from a dumpster with a knife in his hands, running to Annie. They watched as the boy successfully killed the creature with a powerful thrust to the neck. Thalia turned her head back, the hellhound currently trying to chew her face off with a growl, and bashed it with her shield. Before the creature could get up, the daughter of Zeus quickly impaled it without mercy. Luke sighed in relief as he felt his sword pierce the hellhound's gut before kicking it off it. Meanwhile, Naruto grunted and placed a foot on the hellhound's body and forcefully kicked it away from him, watching in fascination as its body dissolved to dust. He looked down at the girl he just saved before offering a hand. Said girl accepted the offered appendage and thanked her savior. Annie. Annabeth looked at Thalia and Luke as they rushed to her. As soon as they reached her, Thalia enveloped the little girl in a hug. Are you alright? Did you get hurt? When Annabeth was done answering Thalia's questions, the little girl looked at the whiskered blonde talking to Luke. Hey, she called out meekly. Naruto stopped talking to Luke and turned to Annabeth. What's your name? My name's Annabeth. She introduced herself shyly. The blonde boy grinned, his whisker mark stretching as he did. I'm Naruto Tobeo. Naruto's eyes fluttered open and he groaned. He opened his eyes slowly and blinked at the natural lighting in the room that came from a window. He grunted and rubbed his face tiredly. You have some nerve. The blonde blinked when he heard a feminine voice. Naruto turned to the side and widened his eyes at the girl before him. And Annie? Indeed, it was the girl he hadn't seen for years. Annabeth's natural curly blonde hair had grown, making her look like a princess were it not for the clothes she wore and her tan skin. Her stormy gray eyes were red and puffy as she glared at him fiercely. Annabeth let out a TSK as she continued. 6 years she started, 6 years Luke and I believed you were dead. 6 years I mourned for you. And then you had the gall to show up out of nowhere. She snapped and punched him, though weak enough to not really hurt. Annabeth sniffed as she let her fist stay where it is. You idiot. Naruto gently wrapped an arm around her and pulled the girl into a hug. Annabeth didn't seem to mind, standing still as the other blonde hugged her. Remember, back when we were kids, you would remember a lot of things. Facts about buildings, monuments, and things about architecture. He smiled at the memories before looking down at Annabeth. Me, I only remember what's important. The whiskered blonde hugged Annabeth tighter. Like the day I met you, wise girl. Annabeth flushed red and groaned as she snuggled deeper, hiding her face. Oh, gods. Naruto. Said blonde only chuckled. The two stayed like that for a while in silence, just enjoying each other's company. Finally reunited after so many years. Until an awkward cough was heard from the side of the room. Percy Jackson slowly opened his eyes and blinked warily. Where am I? He thought, a bit dazed. The last thing he remembered was him trying to save his mom and fought a minotaur. A freaking minotaur. A Greek mythological monster. During the fight, some guy in a red helmet helped him out, but he, Percy, got knocked out. He looked at the window beside him. Outside, Percy saw trees and green hills for miles. People his age and older going about daily, doing whatever people did in here. He blinked when he saw a dude who was half man and half goat conversing with a girl whose skin was green. Before he sighed tiredly. This can't be real. Percy thought in denial, tearing his gaze from the window. He looked at the other side of the room. He wished he hadn't. In another bed was the same guy who helped him with Minotaur, only that his helmet was gone, along with his leather jacket, leaving him with his navy blue jumpsuit. He watched as a blonde girl with an orange shirt and blue jeans talked to the whiskered blonde. Percy blushed in embarrassment when he saw the admittedly touching moment as both blondes hugged each other affectionately, the blonde girl from what he could see even snuggling up to the boy. Both looked happy and content. Percy groaned within his mind. I feel like a third wheel. He coughed to get their attention, as to not make the situation even more embarrassing. As soon as both heard a cough, a sign that someone else was in the room and possibly saw their entire exchange, both Naruto and Annabeth pulled away from each other and flushed red. Annabeth let go of Naruto with a blush on her face. She walked towards Percy's bed and bluntly said, "You drool in your sleep." Soon after, the girl proceeded to grill the black-haired boy for questions about his fight with the Minotaur. The whiskered blonde could only sweat drop as he watched Annabeth interrogating the poor boy. After questioning Percy, the daughter of Athena handed the boys 2 tall glasses. The beverages were a sort of a yellow and brown mix, almost looking like apple juice. Drink this. Both bedridden boys took the beverages eagerly and gulped it down. Percy blinked and looked at the drink he was holding. This tastes just like mom's homemade chocolate chip cookies, he muttered before drinking the serving some more. Naruto drank about half of his drink and sighed in bliss. It tastes like ramen, he said before finishing his serving rather quickly. Annabeth rolled her eyes when she heard what the whiskered boy said. Of course it's ramen, she said dryly. Since they were young, the girl would always remember the blonde boy to be obsessed with the Japanese dish, even if they were on the run from various monsters. Looks like something's hadn't changed. Naruto grinned at the girl, you know it. Setting the empty glass on the table, the blonde got off his bed and stretched. He saw his leather jacket neatly folded, along with his red hood and pouches on a nearby table. Putting on his jacket, Naruto securely tied his pouches on his legs before kicking to make sure they were not loose and held his hood between his arm and waist. Naru, said blonde, turned and was greeted by the sight of Grover entering the room. Groves. Naruto greeted back happily as they hugged each other back. I'm glad you're okay. Had me worried there for a second. Grover grinned at the blonde. You know me, Groves. Not that easy to kill. Naruto boasted proudly. Grover turned to Percy, who shifted awkwardly as the other two conversed. The look of realization dawned on the satyr's face before he turned his body to the side in order of the green-eyed boy to face the blonde. Oh, Percy. Almost forgot. He cleared his throat and introduced the two. Percy, meet Naruto, the guy who saved our butts back there. Naruto grinned and offered his hand to the boy. Hey there. Percy smiled a bit and shook the blonde boy's hand. Naruto then looked at Grover. So, I'm guessing we made it to camp, huh? He guessed with a smile. Grover nodded and wrapped an arm around the blonde's shoulders. Yup. And if you ask me, it was a long time coming. The satyr said before he smirked and looked at the gray-eyed girl. Annie's been missing you. He teased lightly and laughed when the girl's cheeks turned pink. Shoo shut at Grover. She quickly shushed the satyr in embarrassment. Percy looked around the room, confused. Where exactly are we in camp? He asked. Annabeth answered. This is the infirmary. Located in the big house. She walked towards the entrance and opened it. Grover and I will show you around camp. The four exited the infirmary and stepped outside, walking out onto the porch. Both Naruto and Percy were awed by the sight before them. To put in words, the two would describe it to be peaceful and serene. Satyrs hung around the grounds, lazing about and conversing with other children their age or older. To the side, a strawberry field occupied the space as the fruits grew healthily. It was breathtaking. Chairs, tables, and lounge chairs were spread around the porch, few other demigods occupying the furnitures. The daughter of Athena and the satyr led both Naruto and Percy around the opposite of the house. Both could see small cabins that looked like ancient Greek architecture, an amphitheater, an arena that also looked to be Greek. A distance away, Naruto and Percy could see a lush forest surrounding a part of the camp. Dozens of kids, all wearing the same orange t-shirts varying of age, littered around the camp, some playing volleyball, others were canoeing on a nearby lake, and more kids were in an archery range. Percy took an interest when he saw other kids riding horses down a trail. They also seemed to be at the edge of Long Island, seeing as both could see a shore with water rolling in waves from the big house. At the end of the porch, the half-man half-horse Naruto saw back when he was being carried by Grover, sat across from another man who was short and chubby. The man had a red nose, big watery, blue eyes and curly black to purplish hair. He wore a tiger-striped Hawaiian shirt and purple running shoes that Naruto could see underneath the table. That's Mr. D. Grover murmured to Naruto and Percy. He's the camp director. Be polite. He warned them. Grover then pointed to the man whose back faced them, the same man Naruto saw when he faded in and out of consciousness. Now that Naruto was fully awake and alert, the blonde saw he was wearing a tweed jacket and was wheelchair-bound. Naruto, that's Chiron. Though, Percy already knows him. Mr. Brunner? Percy cried in surprise. Naruto and Annabeth glanced at him with raised eyebrows but didn't speak. Chiron turned to them, a kind smile on his face as he looked at them. Ah, good, Percy. Chiron said, before changing his gaze to the whiskered blonde beside Percy. Naruto, I presume? At the slight movement of the blonde's head, Chiron smiled. Excellent, and now we have 4 for Pinnacle, the wheelchair-bound man muttered loud enough for them to hear. Standing up from his wheelchair, Percy gaped in shock when instead of normal legs, Chiron's were that of a white horse, standing proudly. Why you're a Percy stuttered, pointing at his teacher, surprise and wonder on his face. Chiron nodded with a smile. Yes, I am a centaur. He finished. Turning to the chubby man across from him, the centaur spoke, Mr. D, I would like to introduce you to the 2 boys that killed the Minotaur. Mr. D narrowed his eyes at both Naruto and Percy, as if they were beneath him, before introducing himself. HMPH. And you two are? Naruto Uzumaki. Percy Jackson, sir. The god of madness stayed silent as he observed the boys before scoffing. Not impressed. Was all he said before shaking the can on his hand. Feeling that it was empty, the god snapped his fingers and out of nowhere, another can appeared, replacing the last one. Naruto and Percy frowned at the god's rude attitude but didn't say anything, remembering Grover's warning. Tyron sighed at this and looked at the god. Mr. D. Upon hearing the tone in the centaur's voice, Mr. D grumbled, must I say it? At the stern glance Chiron gave him, he heaved a sigh. Fine. Welcome to Camp Half-Blood, Nathaniel and Peter. Now, don't expect me to be glad to see you too. Both boys opened their mouths to correct the god only for Annabeth to stop them. Don't even bother, Mr. D does that to all demigods. She told them. Naruto crossed his arms and scowled. He summed up the camp director in one word. Maybe that was why they called him Mr. D. The look of realization crossed the blonde's face. Mr. D does that, stand for something? Naruto asked after a moment of silence. The chubby camp director stopped shuffling his cards and looked at the blonde boy with a look on his face. Young man, names are powerful things. You don't just go around using them for no reason. He warned. Are you going to play? Chiron asked, sitting back on his wheelchair. Naruto and Percy shrugged. You do know how to play pinochle? Mr. D added, eyeing the blonde boy and black-haired boy suspiciously. No, not really. Percy said. No sir. Naruto said, being extra careful to be polite around the camp director. Even if it wasn't his thing. At least you have manners, unlike many other kids here, he said. Well, it is, along with gladiator fighting and Pac-Man, one of the greatest games ever invented by humans. Mr. D praised the 8-bit game. I would expect all civilized young men to know the rules. The god muttered, glancing at Percy who sweated under his gaze. The centaur chuckled, I am sure they can learn. Chiron trailed off, and he looked up when a light shined down. His eyes widened in shock. Annabeth followed the centaur's gaze and looked up at Naruto's head, and her jaw dropped in surprise. Naruto looked confused as Grover dragged an equally confused Percy down on his knees, bowing down to the blonde. Chiron bowed his head, and Annabeth also dropped to her knees, along with every demigod within the vicinity. Mr. D rose an eyebrow in mild interest. Naruto in turn looked up at the image above him. And widened his eyes. Naruto in turn looked up at the image above him. And widened his eyes. The yellowish golden holographic lightning bolt hung above him, glowing with power and radiance. By the gods above it, Zeus. A random demigod shouted from the outside of the porch, still bowing down. Naruto dropped his hood in shock, not minding as the red helmet rolled on the floor and stopping at Percy's feet. All hail Naruto Uzumaki. Son of Zeus, Thunderer, Lord of the Sky, and King of Olympus. Tyron spoke loud and clear, all the while the other demigods looked at Naruto with awe and surprise, some even with fear. He turned his head to the people he knew and saw that Grover looked like he was about to faint. Percy looked even more confused than before, holding on to Naruto's hood. Annabeth also had a look of shock, though she was happy that her friend was claimed. Chiron held a grim face, as if something very bad happened. Naruto had a slight suspicion as to why the centaur had the expression. Mr. D just went back to shuffling his cards while he drank his soda, as if the events happening right now wasn't important to him. Everyone stood up from their places and other demigods were already running towards the more active locations in the camp, most likely to spread the word about the recently claimed demigod of one of the big three. The now claimed son of Zeus stayed still as he heard whispers around him, but he ignored it. For now. Percy walked up to Naruto and handed him the blonde's hood. Are you okay? The black-haired boy asked. Naruto blinked and snapped out of his stupor and grabbed his helmet. Yeah. I just need to sit down for a bit. He said tiredly, plopping down on one of the lounge chairs in the porch. All of this was a lot to take in. As the blonde contemplated, the sounds of hooves trotting to his place caused Naruto to remove his gaze on the ground and onto Chiron. I am sure you have many questions. The centaur said, to which Naruto agreed. Did you know the whole time? Naruto asked the centaur. Chiron shook his head, no. Truly, after Thalia, at the mention of the girl's name, Annabeth and Grover gained a sad look at that, while Naruto's whole body stiffened and his fists clenched. I thought Lord Zeus would have stopped after her death. Chiron grimaced as he said that. But since you were claimed. I was wrong about that. He admitted. But why couldn't he send a sign? Naruto snapped angrily as he shot up from the lounge chair, his father's temper showing. If I really am his son, why didn't he do anything when I was with Thalia, Luke, and Annie? He asked, frustration in his voice, and Chiron could not blame the child for that. It was most likely to keep you safe. Chiron explained, after the Rich One sent various monsters after Thalia, Lord Zeus must have feared for what would happen to you, and so waited for you to reach camp before claiming you. Naruto sat back down after the explanation, his mind still in a fuzz. The centaur seemed to see the distress in the blonde's face and placed a hand on his shoulder, then looked at the daughter of Athena. Annabeth, would you kindly prepare Percy his bunk? We shall be placing him in cabin 11 for now. And if you will, some supplies and necessities for Naruto in cabin 1. The girl nodded and sprinted off, but not before giving Naruto an assuring smile, a way to show that she was there for him. The whiskered blonde gave her a grateful smile in return. "Well," Mr. D spoke up after a moment of silence, "I'm tired." He announced, "Shall we continue this later then, Mr. D?" Chiron gestured, the cards shuffled around the table. The god nodded, "I believe I'll take a nap before the sing-along tonight." He turned to Naruto and Percy. Cabin 11, Percy Jackson. "Also, mind your manners. Cabin 1 for you, Naruto Uzumaki." Just as he entered the big house, he turned back with a look of realization on his face. "Oh, and before I forget," he looked at Naruto, "welcome to the family," he said with a hint of mirth in his tone along with a twinkle of amusement in his eyes. Clearly his welcome was not serious. And with that, he swept into the farmhouse. "Well then," Chiron started, rising from his wheelchair, "I think we could all agree all of us has been cooped up for a while." Naruto and Percy nodded in agreement, their ADHD giving them a hard time to stay in one place for too long. "Let us meet the other campers." The centaur gave them a tour around the big house first. Chiron showing them the parts of the large farmhouse. As they went to the moved on and past the various places frequented by demigods wearing orange, to which Naruto thought was awesome. Camp half-blood shirts and plain jeans. Several campers often nudged each other and whispered amongst themselves as they passed by. "That's them, the ones who killed the Minotaur." A demigod pointed at them. Others often pointed at Naruto. The blonde's eye twitched as he heard one more kid whisper about him to another. One of the things the blonde kept on hearing was Big Three. A reference to the three brothers, Hades, Poseidon, and his father, Zeus. Oftentimes he would hear about the oath the brothers took to never sire demigod children after World War II. This was really starting to get to his nerves. As the tour continued, Percy saw various other satyrs wearing the same camp half-blood shirt, only they didn't wear pants, allowing their furry legs to be seen. His brows furrowed as he saw a satyr holding a little girl that looked a bit like Annabeth by the hand. "Mr. Brunch Iron, was I the first demigod Grover escorted?" the boy asked curiously. Chiron grimaced and Naruto stiffened at the question. The centaur turned to the black-haired boy while Naruto's back faced them. "No, Percy, but unlike yours, which was successful. His first assignment was. One of them died." Naruto finished bitterly. Percy stared, eyes wide at this, while Chiron sighed, he was still so small back then. "How old is he, actually?" Naruto asked with a raised eyebrow. 28. Chiron answered casually. "And he's in 6th grade. Percy exclaimed in surprise. "Satyrs mature half as fast as humans, Percy," Chiron explained. "Grover has been the equivalent of a middle school student for the past 6 years." Naruto snorted. "Sucks for him to go through puberty twice as long," the son of Zeus said. He really wanted to get out of puberty as fast as his can. "Damn hormones. That's horrible." Percy shuddered in agreement. "Yes." Chiron agreed. "Grover is a late bloomer, even by satyr standards, and not yet very accomplished at woodland magic." The centaur then gained a smile. "But, seeing as he brought not one, but 2 demigods, one being a child of one of the big 3 no less, he can continue to be a protector," he assured Percy. Percy smiled at that. "I hope," he said before he frowned. "Mr. Br Chiron, was Naruto right, did one of them?" he asked in a low tone. The centaur looked away. "Let's move along, shall we?" he diverted uneasily. The 3 moved to the woods, which Naruto and Percy discovered was actually larger than they thought, taking up at least a quarter of the valley. The centaur gestured towards the woods. "These woods are stocked," he informed, "you can try if you wish. But do be armed," he warned. Stocked with what?" Percy asked. "Armed with what? You will see. Capture the flag is Friday night. Do you have your own sword and shield?" "I mean, I have the pen you gave me. But that's it," Percy answered, fishing out the hidden weapon from his pocket. "I have my kunai and shuriken." Naruto reached down and patted the black pouch strapped to his leg. Very well then," Chiron nodded, "but I must suggest to the both of you to not use your weapons in spars or friendly battles," he advised. "Perhaps a size 5 will do well for the both of you. I'll visit the armory later," the trainer assured them. Naruto and Percy both nodded in thanks, and the tour continued. They passed the archery range, to which the son of Zeus took interest in. He was an already skilled marksman, to which he had to thank his perverted teacher for, so a little bit of archery wouldn't hurt to improve his growing skill. Next was the canoeing lake, to which Naruto hurriedly sped past the body of water with an uncomfortable look on his face. Chiron held an amused face at the sight, to which the son of Zeus ducked his head in embarrassment. Though he did glare at Percy, who snickered quietly behind his back. The stables were the next location they visited, to which Chiron didn't seem to like, judging by how quick the explanation the centaur gave them before they moved on. Next was the javelin range, the amphitheater which was used for sing-alongs, and the arena Chiron said held the sword and spear fights. Sword and spear fights? Percy asked. Cabin challenges, Percy. The centaur explained, they aren't lethal, Chiron assured, usually. He added after a moment of thought. Naruto frowned at that, but was used to lethality. Growing up in the streets could do that to you. Oh, and also being a vigilante who took down criminals and scum of all kinds. The same could not be said for Percy, who shifted uncomfortably. Oh, yes, and there's the mess hall. Chiron pointed to an outdoor pavilion in white columns on a hill overlooking the sea. Dozens of picnic tables made out of stone, and no walls nor roof. Wait, what do we do if it rains? Percy questioned with curiosity. Chiron looked at Percy with a hidden smile on his face. We still have to eat, don't we? Something's probably blocking the rain. Naruto stated. Staring at the pavilion, missing a sly smile on the centaur. The three soon reached the cabins. There were exactly 12 of them, just nestled in the woods by the lake. All cabins were arranged in a U formation, with 2 at the base, while 5 were in a row on either side. All looked bizarre collection of cabins in Naruto's opinion. And the whiskered blonde seen strange buildings when he traveled around the world with Jiraiya. Each cabin had a large brass number above the door, they looked nothing alike whatsoever. Cabin 9 had smokestacks, almost like a tiny factory. Cabin 4 had tomato vines on the walls and a roof made out of actual real grass. Cabin 7 looked to be literally made out of solid gold, the cabin gleamed so much it was almost impossible to look at without getting blinded. All faced a common area about the size of a soccer field, dotted with various Greek statues, fountains, flowers, and basketball hoops. In the center of the field was a huge stone-lined fire pit. While it was a rather warm afternoon, the hearth smoldered. A girl about 9 or 10 years old was tending to the flames, poking the many coals with just a stick. Is that safe for a little girl to do that? Naruto asked in a whisper to his black-haired companion, who shrugged. The pair of cabins located at the head of the field, cabins number 1 and 2, looked like his and hers mausoleums, big clean white marble boxes with large columns in front. Naruto stared at his cabin that was labeled with 1. Out of all the cabins, this was the biggest and bulkiest. The polished bronze doors shimmered like some kind of hologram, so that from different angles lightning bolts seemed to streak across the doors. He glanced at cabin 2, this one looking more graceful and feminine, its more slender columns decorated with pomegranates and flowers. The walls carved with images of peacocks. Naruto gained a look when the thought crossed his mind. He was a child of Zeus. An illegitimate one. From what he read in libraries, Hera hated when Zeus cheated on her and sired a child with a mortal. Experienced worse. Naruto thought with a shrug. He would gladly take on any challenge or task his stepmother would give him. He will prove himself. Is this Zeus and Hera's? He heard Percy ask, snapping him out of his thoughts. Correct, Chiron confirmed with a nod. Percy looked at the cabins, they look empty. He pointed out. Several of the cabins are. That's true, no one ever stays in 2, but Naruto here has cabin 1 all to himself. I get that all to myself? Naruto asked, pointing at the massive cabin while looking back at it and Chiron. The centaur nodded once again and Naruto stayed silent, gazing at his father's cabin. This was it, this time he won't be ignored. After all these years, he could finally get the answers he sought after for so long. It was now or never. The son of Zeus sighed deeply and stepped forward to the cabin that was his now, stopping in front of the bronze doors and saw a bag of toiletries and necessities, along with an orange sleeping bag next to it. From Annabeth surely. The whiskered blonde placed a hand on the imposing bronze door and opened it. The first thought that entered Naruto's mind was that his father's cabin looked like a bank. The dome-shaped ceiling was decorated with moving mosaics of a cloudy sky and thunderbolts. The ceiling seemed to give off soft rumbles, which seemed to calm him down. The cabin's smell was like that after a storm, a smell which he and Thalia always liked. Must be a child of Zeus thing. Naruto mused as he looked around. There was no furniture, which seemed to solidify the blonde's opinion that it looked like a bank. The cabin's alcoves had golden eagle statues, Zeus's sacred animal, stationed in them. In the center of the cabin was a 10-foot-tall, intimidating statue of Zeus himself, who held a lightning bolt on one hand which was raised over the statue's head, while Aegis was held in the other. The statue looked like it had a stern eye on every part of the cabin. Naruto took the supplies left for him and put them against the inner wall just next to the door, while putting his red helmet next to the supplies. The blonde glanced towards the door when he heard Chiron say something to Percy, who was trying to take a peek into the third cabin, which looked to be sea-themed. Must be Poseidon's. Naruto guessed. Outside, Chiron placed a hand on Percy's shoulder. Come along, Percy. Naruto, there is more to see. He called out to the boy. In seconds, Naruto was there. As the tour group walked past the other cabins, the son of Zeus looked around the surrounding cabins, noticing most of the other cabins were crowded with campers. It made him wonder if he had any siblings out there. Soon, his thoughts drifted to Thalia and his heart clenched. Thalia always used to assure him that his parent would be revealed once they made it to camp, and she would always seem to cheer him up whenever he got sad and cheered for him when he killed a hellhound for the first time. The blonde remembered that Thalia acted as a big sister for him and she was always there for him through it all. He shook his head and focused on the tour, arriving to the cabin with the label 5. Cabin 5 was scruffily painted with bright red, the paint itself looking messy and dirty. Barbed wires lined the roof and a stuffed boar's head was on the doorway, its eyes seeming to follow when they passed the cabin. He cringed as they moved along, the blaring music of American rock blasting inside. The three continued to walk in silence for the most part, Naruto taking advantage of the silence as he gazed at the scenery around him. Campers varying of age ran about, looking genuinely happy, while others still point and stare at him as if he was some sort of rare animal. It was really starting to get annoying. "Oh, look," Chiron's voice snapped Naruto out of his thoughts. "Annabeth is waiting for us." The blonde girl that nursed them back to health was talking animatedly with a tall blonde teenager about the oncoming game this Friday, whatever the hell that meant, in front of the last cabin on the left, number 11. Wait. Naruto squinted his eyes and looked at the teenager as they got closer until realization struck him. "Luke." The teenager seemed to perk up at the mention of his name and looked at them. Luke now was tall and muscular, but still looked a bit lanky, with his short-cropped sandy hair and a nice smile. He wore an orange tank top, cutoffs and sandals with a leather necklace with 5 different colored clay beads like Annabeth. He also had a thick scar that ran from beneath his right to his jaw. Naruto inwardly frowned, he too had a scar which always served as a painful reminder and a memory he would rather forget. A memory he locked deep inside his mind. A pair of purple, insane eyes and hideous red lips that were formed in a permanent smile which showed yellow teeth flashed in his mind. And Naruto forcibly wiped the image away from his mind as he shuddered. He never wanted to face that man, no, that monster ever again. Naruto snapped out of his thoughts and continued walking. When they reached Annabeth, she looked at Percy with a critical eye but dismissed him quickly. She then turned to Naruto and visibly brightened when she saw him, if her now wide smile was any indication. Luke looked over Naruto and he saw a flicker of sadness in his eyes. Before it changed into a happy one and ran to him, embracing the younger boy. "It really is you," Luke said, separating from his fellow blonde. "Yup. And you've grown." Naruto grinned at him. While the two conversed, Chiron looked at the daughter of Athena. "Annabeth," he said, "I have master's archery class at noon. Would you take them from here?" "Yes sir." Annabeth answered, walking to Naruto's side. Chiron and Luke chuckled lightly at this, which seemed to embarrass the girl, if the blush on her face was anything to go by. Chiron turned to Percy, who looked like he was about to say something, only for the centaur to hold up a hand. "Percy, if you have questions, I am sure Annabeth can answer them. For one she cannot, you may find me later on," he assured the boy, before gesturing towards the doorway, cabin 11. Chiron told Percy, "Make yourself at home." Naruto noted that out of all the cabins they saw, this one looked more of a normal cabin found in summer camps. "Looks a bit run down," he observed. The cabin had a broken threshold, its brown paint was peeling, and many other things that Naruto noted really needed repairs. Over the doorway was a caduceus symbol. Inside, it was packed with people, both boys and girls, way more numbers of bed that fit into the old cabin. Sleeping bags were spread all over on the floor. Chiron didn't go in, the door being too low for him. But when the campers saw the centaur, they all stood up and bowed respectfully. "Well, then." Chiron started, "Good luck, Percy, Naruto, take care, both of you. I'll see you two at dinner." The centaur turned and galloped away towards the archery range. Naruto and Percy were looking at the kids as they also stared back at them, though most of the looks were directed to Percy. Some did take a side glance with frowns and grumbles. Naruto in turn narrowed his electric blue eyes and his face set into a deep scowl, his expression darkened as he glared at the campers. The campers that sent him looks and frowns immediately looked away with fear present on their faces. Cowering under the glare the son of Zeus gave them. Thoroughly intimidated, Naruto glanced at Annabeth who encouraged Percy to enter the cabin. "Well?" the girl prompted. "Go on," she urged Percy. Percy did so, and in the process, tripped on his own feet, falling down were it not for Naruto to catch him by the shirt and steadied him. Percy sent the blonde a thankful look even as snickers filled the room, but none of the campers said anything, in fear of being treated with the son of Zeus's glare a second time. "Percy Jackson, meet cabin 11. Annabeth announced as the snickers quieted down. "Regular or undetermined?" one of the campers asked. Percy looked confused at the camper's question, but Annabeth seemed to, easily replying, "Undetermined." The campers in the cabin groaned. Luke, the blonde guy from before, Percy mused, spoke up, now, campers. That's what we're here for. Luke turned to Percy with a smile on his face, now, Percy. You can have that spot on the floor, right over there. He said, pointing to the corner. This is Luke, Annabeth introduced, he's your counselor for now. For now? Percy asked. You're undetermined, Luke explained. They don't know what cabin to put you in, so you're here. Cabin 11 takes all newcomers, all visitors. Naturally, we would. Hermes, our patron, is the god of travelers. He's also the god of thieves. Naruto added, getting snickers from the more mischievous-looking kids, but were quickly silenced when the son of Zeus gave them his glare. Percy looked around with a frown, clenching his weapon from his pocket as to not get it stolen. How long will I be here? Percy asked. Good question, Luke said. Until you're determined. How long will that take? All the campers laughed. Come on, Annabeth told both of the new campers. I'll show you the volleyball court. Didn't we already see it? Naruto argued, Percy nodding in agreement. Annabeth rolled her eyes, come on, Whiskers. She grabbed Naruto's wrist and dragged him outside forcibly, which earned a few oohs and snickers from the campers. Percy followed soon after. Hey. Once outside, Annabeth let go of Naruto's wrist and opened her mouth to say something. Before a husky voice interrupted her. Well. Looky here, newbies. The three looked over. A muscular girl that looked two from cabin 5 marched to them, followed by 3 other girls behind her, looking similar to her. Clarice, Annabeth growled lowly with annoyance. Why don't you polish your spear of something? Sure, Miss Princess, Clarice waved her off. So I can run you through with it Friday night. Eres Caracas. Annabeth exclaimed, which Percy somehow knew was Greek for go to the crows. How the boy could actually understand that, even he didn't know. We'll pulverize you, Clarice threatened, then turned and looked at Percy. Who are you pansies? She asked rudely, then glancing at Naruto with a bit of wariness in her eyes at the blonde. Percy Jackson, Naruto Uzumaki, Annabeth started, meet Clarice LaRue, daughter of Ares. Percy blinked at that. Like the war god. The daughter of said war god sneered at him. Got a problem with that? No, Percy shook his head, it explains the smell. Burn. Naruto smirked as the British girl glared. We've got an initiation ceremony for newbies, Prissy, airhead. Clarice growled. Percy. The black-haired boy corrected. How about I let my fist meet your face instead? Naruto retorted. Wanna go, blondie? Clarice fumed and rounded on the whiskered blonde. Naruto let out a smirk, I'd rather put you out of your misery. He retorted, not backing down. Just cause your daddy's one of the big 3 ain't going to save you from our initiation. Clarice explained with a cruel smirk. Naruto's electric blue eyes narrowed in anger. Come give it a try. He said with a growl. Lightning danced around the blonde's form as the skies blackened and rumbled. Just as the two looked ready to duke it out, Annabeth thankfully intervened. Stop. She said and looked at the daughter of Ares. Clarice, you know what Chiron told you, no fighting until Friday. Yeah, and what's going to stop me from breaking that deal? Clarice replied, her fist clenching. Need I remind you about the last time you broke Chiron's deal, Clarice? Annabeth warned. Clarice paled and backed off, but not before shooting the 3 a glare and stormed off with her siblings. The blonde let out a tch, lightning stopped dancing around him and the skies cleared as he arraigned his temper. Dude, Percy muttered, a newfound respect for the blonde. It was nighttime now, just after dinner, and Naruto was found back inside his cabin. Leaning against a pillar as the soft rumbles from the ceiling echoed within the massive cabin. The blonde took out a kunai from his pouch and inspected it, touching the tip lightly. Still sharp. Good. He had to be prepared. Just after Annabeth finished the tour, she decided that both he and Percy would join her team during Capture the Flag this coming Friday. And he couldn't wait. Putting the kunai back into his pouch, he looked up and walked up to the statue with a blank look on his face. Well, I'm here now. Naruto started, after everything I've been through, I just found out that you're my father. His eyes narrowed. You claimed me for a reason, didn't you? He accused, something big is going on, isn't there? That's why you claimed me, right? Answer me. Silence reigned and he waited for an answer, anything, from his father, but after a few minutes, before he sighed, walking to his sleeping bag, he tucked himself in and closed his eyes, the soft rumbles of the ceiling calming him. He needed to rest. It was a big day tomorrow. Wakey, hooty. Naruto's eyes groggily opened and he felt cold metal on his chin, forcing him to crane his head up to meet the owner of the voice. The first thing he noticed was the tall man's bleached white skin and messy green hair, then his deranged purple eyes which seemed to swirl with insanity locked onto his electric blues. The man's purple jacket and pants were filled with creases and crinkles as he held a metal crowbar to his chin. But what creeped Naruto out the most was the man's ruby red lips, which was outstretched to a wide permanent grin, showing yellow unsightly teeth. Naruto struggled to move only to find he couldn't, feeling his hands held tightly by thick rope. The man seemed to notice his peril and giggled, "Oh, don't mind me. Just keep struggling. It's more fun this way." The man urged the blonde. Naruto snarled behind his helmet, or what was left of it, his blue eyes staring right back into the man's purples. "Screw you." Thunder boomed angrily outside. For the first time, Naruto took in his surroundings. He was in a warehouse, judging by the many crates and boxes that were stacked on top of each other. One light source dangled above him as he was forced to kneel. The man looked amused by his response, removing the crowbar from Naruto's chin. He walked around the bound blonde, circling him. "That's the spirit. You're a natural rebel," he praised, "not that it'll do you any good." The man trailed off. Immediately after that, the man cracked Naruto on the face with the crowbar, hard, sending the blonde skidding away a few feet. "Ooh, that looked like it really hurt," the man mocked. Naruto stood up wobbly, only to get hit by the crowbar once more, sending him down to the ground. Whoop. "Now hang on, that looked like it hurt a lot more." The man played with the metal crowbar in his hands as he watched the boy struggle once more. "Now, let's try to clear this up, okay, pumpkin?" He raised the crowbar above his head. "What hurts more? A?" Then brought it down harshly upon the blonde. "Or B?" He stuck the boy again. "Forehand. Another strike. Or backhand." By now, the black crowbar was stained red by Naruto's blood. Naruto collapsed on the floor and coughed up blood, the crimson liquid dripping down his chin and onto the floor. Even as his body screamed in pain, he tried to say something. The man noticed Naruto's lips move and frowned before crouching down and put a hand to his ear. "Ooh, what's that?" A little louder, Blondie. "I think you have a collapsed lung that always impedes the oratory," he said, ruffling the blonde's hair. In response, Naruto spit a wad of blood on the man's chin, which caused him to frown and brought the blonde's head down on the ground. He huffed, taking out a napkin and cleaned the blood on his chin. "Now that was rude. People I tortured before were polite, and when I say polite, I mean them begging down on their knees for mercy." Naruto only grinned, his teeth bloody. At this, the man cracked a smile as his eyes looked at the blonde. "Looks like I have to teach you some manners." He paused and shrugged. "Nah, I'll just keep on beating you with this crowbar." With that, he proceeded to beat the blonde without mercy or remorse, laughing cruelly as he did. A while later, Naruto looked on the verge to pass out in any second, his eyes dropping every second as his body swayed left to right. The man cupped the blonde's chin with a grin before kicking him. "Oh, don't pass out now. What happened to all that bravado from earlier?" Naruto didn't answer. The man grinned, "Strappin' boy, because we will be here for a bit," he sing-songed. He started giggling, which turned to full-blown laughter as thunder boomed once more. Naruto shot up from his sleeping bag with a gasp, sweat covered his face, and his hair was in a mess. He wiped the sweat off his face with a hand towel and fixed his hair. Standing up, he stretched before donning his gear. His arms slid in the sleeves of his leather jacket smoothly, and he straightened it. Bending down, he strapped his pouch securely on his leg and tightened the laces of his boots. Once finished, the blonde sighed and looked at his father's statue, imposing and intimidating as ever. "So Zeus," he paused, unsure of what to say, "I gotta admit, out of all the gods and goddesses I expected to be my parent, I never thought it would be you." He ran a hand through his hair. "I mean, I didn't expect me, Naruto Uzumaki, a no-named orphan and outcast, to be the son of Zeus, the king of gods himself." He gained a frown. "Why wasn't I told you were my father when I was with Thalia, my half-sister no less?" The blonde sighed. "I don't know what you want from me, or if I need to do something. I mean, from what I hear, it takes a while for kids to get claimed, so thanks for claiming me." He didn't know what to think about his claiming, honestly. He already heard how unlucky it was to be left unclaimed, to not know who their parents were. And he understood the feeling of being abandoned. Though, he was sure as hell that Zeus had an ulterior motive for claiming him this early. It had to connect with the dreams and visions he started having. All of it would often involve an eagle and a horse. Two sacred animals that belonged to his sire and uncle, and the dream would usually depict them fighting. The look of realization dawned on the blonde. They were fighting over something. The question was why. There had to be a reason his father and uncle were fighting, an argument perhaps. A spat. Or maybe something was stolen. The knock on the door interrupted his musings. After opening the massive door to his cabin, and the unexpected visitor was Annabeth, who had a look of concern on her face. "Is something wrong?" she asked with worry at the look on the taller blonde's face. Naruto shook his head. "Nah, just thinking is all." He leaned on the doorway. "So, what's up, Annie-chan?" Annabeth grew red when she heard the affectionate suffix he gave her. She moved a bang behind her ear as she shifted nervously. I just wanted to tell you that it's almost breakfast is all." The girl said, inwardly hitting herself for stuttering. Naruto nodded and the two made their way towards the direction everyone else was going. Annabeth sat at her own table with the rest of her siblings at table 6, while Naruto sat at his own table, table 1, which was near the entrance of the pavilion. They marched up the hill to the mess hall's pavilion. Satyr joined the campers from the meadow. Naiads emerged from the canoeing lake. A few dryads coming out of trees, joining the demigods. At the pavilion, torches left snuffed out were around the marble columns. A central fire burned in a bronze brazier the size of a tub. Each cabin had its own table, covered in white cloth trimmed in purple. 3 of the tables were empty, though cabin 11's was way overcrowded. Naruto snickered slightly at the sight of Percy having to squeeze on the edge of a bench. That had to be uncomfortable. And himself? Well, he sat at his own large table, all alone. He didn't know if he should consider himself lucky or not. He saw Grover sitting at table 12 with Mr. D, a few satyrs, and a pair of plump blonde boys who looked just like the camp director. Chiron stood to one side, the picnic table being way too small for a centaur. Clara sat in front of the Aries' table. Laughing and belching right alongside her friends and siblings. Naruto scrunched his nose at the way they ate. An image popped in his mind. That of a boy the same age as him with red hair and green eyes, wearing skin-tight long-sleeved yellow suit with a red lighting bolt on the center and red jeans eating in the same manner as the children of war, only faster. Stuffing his face with tacos mixed with pizza of all kinds. Naruto cringed with disgust and forced the image out of his head. Note to self, never sit next to Wally next time we eat. Wood nymphs came forward with platters of food. Grapes, apples, strawberries, cheese, fresh bread, and barbecue. Naruto loaded up his plate with a steaming bowl of ramen and grinned before he dug in, moderately eating his bowl. After breakfast, the campers separated and went to their daily activities. Naruto himself having a schedule given to him by Chiron after eating. He first took ancient Greek from Annabeth with Percy, though Annabeth would keep sending him weird looks all the time, and her cheeks would turn red whenever he looked at her, and would turn away. He got confused when Percy would give him disappointing looks and head shakes. For the rest of the day, he would rotate through outdoor activities, looking for something he was good at. Chiron tried to teach him archery, which he was a natural at, his skill with the bow being enhanced thanks to years of practicing. Chiron looked quite pleased at that. Foot racing? He was good at that too. Leaving the wood nymph instructors in the dust. They were quite mad. Having centuries of practice running away from lovesick gods, yet he was faster than them. And wrestling? Yep, good at that too. The first time he got on the mat, Clarice would challenge him and lose. And would call the blonde in many offensive names. It was second nature to him, having to go out at night and playing vigilante, fighting crooks and sums alike back in Richmond. So he had the upper hand in experience and training. That could not be said for Percy however, who, in his defense, did try his best, but ultimately got suplexed by an angry Clarice. He also tried canoeing along with Percy. It wasn't really his thing, and it seemed the lake had it out for him when his canoe almost flipped upside down 3 times. Though, Percy excelled in it, the boy finally finding something he was good at. The senior campers and counselors were impressed, finding the son of Zeus a good addition to Camp Half-Blood. But were still trying to figure out who Percy's godly parent was. Despite all that, the camp was enjoyable. Having gotten used to the smell of strawberry fields in the afternoon, sweaty kids fighting everywhere, even the Aphrodite cabin girls who constantly try to flirt with him all the time, but Annabeth would usually drive them away with a huff. Afternoon, just hours away from capture the flag. It was time for both Naruto and Percy's first sword fighting lesson since they made to camp. Cabin 11 gathered in the big circular area, where Luke would be the instructor. Both started with basic stabbing and slashing, using straw-stuffed dummies in Greek armor. The son of Zeus did it perfectly, whereas Percy slashed wildly, whopping his sword during his turn, imagining his less-than-stellar stepfather as the dummy. The lesson moved on to dueling pairs. A random son of Hermes, Travis the son of Zeus remembered, became Percy's partner and quickly beated the green-eyed boy. Percy groaned on the floor and blearily opened his eyes and saw a gloved hand that belonged the Sky Child. He grabbed the offered appendage and stood up with the help of the blonde, thanks. The black-haired boy massaged his back as he held onto his sword before walking back into the crowd. Luke announced that he would be Naruto's partner, since this was my first time. As he approached the son of Hermes, one camper whispered to him, "Good luck," he said, "Luke's the best swordsman in the last 300 years. "That's gonna change," Naruto muttered. Through the crowd, Annabeth watched the oncoming duel with a worried look on her face, watching 2 of her friends stared at each other. Naruto saw this and flashed her a charming smile, his electric blue eyes shining in confidence. He quickly looked back at Luke who readied his sword and he himself took a kunai from his pouch, went into a stance and focused on the older blonde, missing Annabeth's blush. "Well." Luke smirked. "Let's get started." Naruto nodded. He was confident he would beat him. Then both charged at each other. Luke showered him with thrusts, parries, and shield blocks, but the son of Zeus would dodge every strike and retaliate with a more aggressive attack. He had to admit Luke was really good with a sword and shield. But he faced people who made the son of Hermes a toddler in comparison. The image of a man in orange and black armor and mask which only had one eye hole that exposed one calculating and deadly gray eye appeared in his mind. Focus. Naruto blinked and sidestepped a thrust aimed his way before using his arm to block a shield bash from Luke. The Sky Child quickly used his arm that blocked the son of Hermes' shield and forcefully shoved it away from Luke's chest. He slashed at him with speed and ferocity that forced Luke to stumble back. The younger blonde took the advantage and lunged at him. He got closer to him and slashed quickly. The son of Zeus lunged once more, but the older blonde brought his shield up just in time. "Good job Naruto, you've really grown these past 6 years." Luke praised. Naruto didn't answer, kicking Luke's leg which caught him by surprise. The blonde kicked the center of the son of Hermes' chest before striking him in the abdomen with a palm strike. Luke stood there, dazed, and Naruto ran to him and kicked the shield away from the older blonde and sending him backwards. The bronze shield landed on the dusty ground. Both blondes charged and met at a standstill, their forearms wrestling for dominance as both glared at each other. "Give up," Luke shouted, gritting his teeth. "I'm standing my ground," Naruto growled. The crowd cheered, one side for the son of Zeus, while the other cheered for the son of Hermes. Naruto narrowed his eyes and his arm sparked before a static charge was released. Literally and figuratively, shocking Luke causing him to lose the clash, Naruto sent a hard right towards Luke's face and a powerful kick in the stomach, sending the older blonde towards the ground. The crowd went silent as Luke landed with a thud and lied there. Naruto quickly came to the older blonde's side with a look of regret on his face. "Sorry." He apologized. Luke sat up, seeming to be too shocked, no pun intended, to speak. "Sorry." His scarred face broke into a grin. "By the gods, why are you sorry? This is great. You're a natural with weapons, Naruto." The other campers nodded with agreement and looked at the son of Zeus with newfound respect. Percy especially. It was evening, getting ever so close to capture the flag. Naruto was found sitting next to Annabeth at the lake, resting from wall climbing. The blonde was used to scaling walls, and it helped that Annabeth was there to help him out. "You did pretty well for the first time you ever tried climbing the wall. Almost all first-timers usually end up getting burned." She praised him. Naruto shrugged. I'm used to it Tobeo." Annabeth looked at him weirdly. "You scaled a wall before?" she questioned. The Sky Child avoided the girl's eyes as he shifted nervously, he tried to come up with a reason. The daughter of Athena recognized the look on Naruto's face and sent him a look. "Naruto," she warned. "What did you do before you came here?" Naruto sighed. "I became a vigilante back at Richmond," murmured just loud enough for Annabeth to hear. "What?" Annabeth put her hands on her hips and glared at the son of Zeus. "So you mean to tell me that for 6 years, you've been running around Richmond playing hero and saving damsels in distress, She sighed. "What did you even call yourself?" Naruto grinned and jabbed a thumb towards his chest. "I'm Red Hood," he declared proudly. "Taking down scumbags and serving justice." The son of Zeus said cheesily, like how heroes would say it back in the 90s. Annabeth stared at him before giggling, which the boy found cute and scooted closer. "I guess I should have seen you playing vigilante coming." The two went silent as they enjoyed the scenery. It was finally time, Naruto thought excitedly. Well, there was more excitement than usual. It was time for capture the flag. When the plates cleared away, the familiar sound of the conch horn rang out and everyone stood at their tables. Campers yell and cheer as Annabeth and 2 of her half-siblings run into the pavilion carrying a silk banner. It was nearly 10 feet long, glistening gray, with a painting of an owl above some tree. From the opposite side of the pavilion, Clarice and her siblings ran with another banner of identical size, but red, painted with a bloody spear and a boar's head. Percy turned to Luke and yelled, "Does Ares and Athena always lead the teams?" "Not always," he replied. "Most often. Plus, it is more interesting. Athena, the goddess of wisdom and war, versus Ares, the god of war, would be pretty cool to see fight." Percy nodded. Whose side are we on?" "Athena's, for a while. We chose to be allies for a couple of months. You and Naruto are going to be great help." The teams were announced. Athena made an alliance with Zeus, Apollo, and Hermes, 2 of the biggest cabins and what some saw as their ace in the hole, considering that the son of Zeus seemed to show skill. Privileges had been traded, shower times, chore schedules, the best slots for activities in order to win support from other cabins. Ares had allied themselves with everybody else. Dionysus, Demeter, Aphrodite, and Hephaestus. From what Percy had seen, Dionysus's kids were actually good athletes, but there were only 2 of them. Demeter's kids had the edge with their skills in nature and outdoor stuff, but they weren't very aggressive unless you got on their bad side. From the Aphrodite campers, he didn't have to worry too much. They mostly sat out every activity and checked their reflections in the lake, did their hair and gossiped. Hephaestus's kids were rough looking, and there were only 4 of them, but they were big and burly from working in the metal shop all day. They might be a problem. That, of course, left Ares' cabin. A dozen of the biggest, ugliest, meanest kids he'd ever seen. Tyron hammered his hoof on the marble. "Heroes," he announced. "You know the rules. The creek is the boundary line. The entire forest is fair game. All magic items are allowed. The banner must be prominently displayed and have no more than 2 guards. Prisoners may be disarmed, but not to be bound or gagged. No killing or maiming is allowed. I will serve as referee and battlefield medic. Arm yourselves." He spread his hands, and the tables were suddenly covered with various equipment. Ranging from helmets, bronze swords, spears, and ox-hide shields coated in metal. Naruto didn't glance at the armor spread out and simply took a blue headband and tied it to his arm before putting his hood on. Just as he was about to pull out 2 kunes, a heavenly voice stopped him. "Check the table." The voice was authoritative and imposing. When the blonde looked back over the table, everything looked the same before a pair of gauntlets shimmered on the table. They looked to be the same design of the gauntlets he had now, only these were made out of bronze and had the lightning bolt symbol engraved on each gauntlet. Black, fingerless gloves attached to the bronze gauntlets. "Zeus?" the blonde questioned in his mind. "Touch them." The voice commanded him and he listened, although warily. Replacing his old gauntlets with the engraved ones, he fastened the straps. "So what now?" Naruto asked. "Think of a weapon." The voice said, and Naruto listened, closing his eyes in concentration. He quickly thought of a weapon. The gauntlets glowed blue before turning into twin bronze blades with hooked sides and had a guard that covered the front of the hilt that ended in a sharp edge and intricate patterns on the flat side of the blades. "1." The blonde stared in amazement as he inspected it. "Use them wisely," the voice stated. Naruto thought on how to change back to the gauntlets as soon as he thought of it. They glowed before turning back to normal. He looked up at the sky before cracking a smile. "Thanks, Zeus." He ran back to the rest of the blue team, and the son of Zeus almost laughed at the sight before him. Percy had a shield that was the size of a large sign, with a big caduceus in the middle, and looked like he could barely lift it. He had a helmet, like all the helmets on Athena's side, which had a blue horsehair plume on top. The blonde somehow managed to stop his laughter before running back to Annabeth and marched alongside her. "Anything I should worry about?" he asked her. She shook her head. "I would have warned you about Clarissa's spear, but since you're a son of Zeus, you're going to be fine. We'll take the banner from Ares. Has Luke told you your job?" "Guard the border so that Clarissa and her buddies come and attack me while you guys get the flag," he said confidently. She looked at Naruto in shock. "He told you that?" "No, he told me to guard the border, I figured out the rest," he said before grabbing Percy by the collar and dragging the boy with him, despite Percy's protests. Annabeth shot him a confused look. "What are you doing?" "Figured that Clarissa would be aiming for the both of us since we did piss her off. I'll bring Percy with me so that she and her buddies have their attention on us." The daughter of Athena opened her mouth before closing it. "That actually sounds good, are you still going through with it?" she asked uneasily. Naruto nodded and looked at Percy. "You get the plan?" Percy nodded his head. "Why yeah, guard the border and use ourselves as bait." The blonde shrugged. "Pretty much." With that, they both push ahead. They had a game to win. The conch horn blew. Whoops were heard as blue team raced into the woods. It didn't take long for the 3 demigods to meet the opposition, coming across 3 kids of Ares first. Luke acted fast, knocking one kid out quickly. The second went down by the son of Zeus's hand, who used his newly acquired weapon, ducking under the child of Ares' swing and elbowed him right in the temple. The dazed war child retaliated by slashing at him only for his sword to meet twin bronze blades in block that resembled an X. With a yell, Naruto forcefully broke the son of war's guard before a slash to the abdomen brought the child of Ares down. "Mark!" the third one cried out. With an enraged roar, he charged at the whiskered blonde, intent on avenging his unconscious brother. Naruto's swords changed back to gauntlets, and he took out 2 kunai and flipped the small weapons in a reverse grip, lightning dancing on the small blades. The sky child lunged at the incoming child of war and dodged a punch before striking the third one 2 times, electrocuting the boy. Grabbing the stunned son of Ares on the shoulders, he switched their positions and kicked him on the back, which sent him to Percy's direction. "Percy. Now's your chance," Naruto called out. The green-eyed boy nodded firmly and went into a stance that he remembered Luke teaching him. The war child tried to hit Percy with his sword only for Percy to dodge and bash the son of war with his shield and slashing him with his sword. As the third one hit the ground, sounds of footsteps hit the 3 demigods' ears and the 3 looked at the right side. 5 or 7 demigods of the opposing team that ranged from Demeter to Ares surrounded Naruto, Percy, and Luke with their weapons readied. But just as the opposing demigods moved to attack, arrows suddenly came flying out of nowhere, hitting the opposing team. Naruto turned his head to a bush just a distance away. The bushes rustled, and kids from the Apollo cabin popped out of the bushes, while other Apollo kids came out of their hiding spots behind the trees, all of them holding bows. The son of Zeus looked at one of the Apollo children in particular who led the barrage, Will Solace, if he remembered correctly. Sending a thankful nod to the son of Apollo. Will smiled in return before he and his siblings scattered, hunting down more of the opposing team. Let's get a move on. Luke ordered as they continued through the woods as yells and clangs of metal could be heard all around. The three moved further into enemy territory. It was only minutes before another group started to chase them as they headed to the flag. Percy panted as he ran. It was bad enough that the slightly bigger armor was weighing him down a bit, but he had to keep an eye on both the ground and the front as to not lose Luke and Naruto. What do we do? He yelled out to the older demigod. Luke stayed silent as he planned for a strategy. I have an idea. Both heads snapped to the son of Zeus. Let's split up and meet at the flag. The son of Hermes glanced back at the group that was chasing them before grimacing and turned to Naruto. We can't. They're hot on our trail. If we split up now, they'll be able to get us. At this, Naruto smirked behind his helmet. Taking out a small gray pellet from his belt, the Sky Child held it out so his allies could see the small object. Don't worry, I'll cover our escape, though you may want to cover your mouth. He warned. Before dropping the pellet. Hey. What gives? The group that chased the three demigods stared in confusion as thick gray smoke engulfed the area which blocked their vision. Luke and Percy quickly covered their mouths, hearing violent coughing from behind. Meet you at the flag. Both heard Naruto say before the three split into different directions. At the airhead. Naruto smirked as a part of the group that avoided the pellet chased after him, most likely seeing him as a bigger threat. He threw random shurikens at the direction of his pursuers and ducked behind a particularly large tree. Where'd he go? One asked, only to get shrugs in response. Find him. He must be lurking around here somewhere. The others nodded at the order and fanned out to search the area. Missing the shadowy figure on top of the tree that was in the middle of the path. The son of Zeus crouched down on one knee on top of a tree branch that was strong enough to hold his weight as he surveyed and observed where the opposing demigods were. One demigod approached the bushes and inspected the shrubbery. After a few minutes of searching, he shrugged and prepared to release the bush to find more spots that the son of Zeus could have hid. Only for a gloved hand to shoot up from the bush and grab him by the face, muffling his startled scream and pulled him inside the bush. Naruto grabbed the struggling demigod in a chokehold and elbowed him on the back of his neck, instantly knocking out the boy in one swift motion. The son of Ares whapped at a few bushes to clear his path, having strayed from the others to find the Sky Child. Just a few feet away from the original area where the son of Zeus disappeared. He grunted and destroyed one more bush, only to end up meeting a tree. The war child growled frustratingly and turned around, grumbling as he did. Rustle from nearby shrubbery alerted the son of war, who immediately took out his sword and pointed at the direction. Who's there? He shouted. Another rustle from behind made the son of Ares to turn around and glare at that direction. Answer me. Silence. He seethed. Show yourself, you coward. The boy demanded. He backed up in wariness before hitting the tree from before, startling him a bit. The son of Ares gave a small yell of surprise, not loud enough for anyone to hear, and glared at the tree. Stupid tree, he grumbled, and started to walk back to his group. Never noticing a figure that appeared upside down from a rope before it was too late and the son of Ares' scream rang out. The last two demigods snapped their heads at the direction of the sound. Joshua. One asked hesitantly, and the two walked towards the direction of where the sound originated. Weapons at the ready, the two demigods approached the path where the son of Ares took, lightly stumbling at a few rocks here and there. Joshua, where are you? The first one called out, his hand slightly trembling. Both backed up and eventually hit something, or rather, someone. The two demigods slowly looked up at what they crashed into at fear. It was the son of Ares, who was bound by the feet and was dangling off a rope that was tied to the tree, his face having one bruise that was already starting to swell. His head barely inches above the ground. The two opposing demigods didn't had a chance to scream before their heads were forcefully collided and sent them to the land of Morpheus. As the two demigods fall down to the ground, Naruto didn't waste any time and dashed back in the direction of where the flag should be. He made it to the flag and saw two kids guarding it. A daughter of Demeter and a son of Ares. The girl held a sword and shield, whereas the son of Ares held a spear. Both looked vigilant, their shoulders tense and their bodies already in a stance. He crept silently, his footsteps barely making a sound, taking out a shuriken and aimed for the daughter of Demeter. The shuriken sped towards the girl and nailed her right in the head, knocking her out cold instantly. The son of Ares gave out a startled shout and twirled around before snarling at the Sky Child and charged at him with his spear. Naruto easily sidestepped the attack and his gauntlets changed into his twin blades. The blonde immediately went on the offensive, forcing the son of Ares to go to the defensive. Naruto swung his blades at the spear-wielding boy and broke his guard. The war child quickly recovered and sent a right hook only for it to be blocked. The child of Zeus kicked the child of war in the stomach, making him double over, before cracking the boy on the face. The son of Ares retaliated and thrusted his spear, but the blonde was too quick and dodged the thrust with ease. The son of Zeus brought one of his twin blades down on the spear and held it there. The war child snarled and kicked the blonde, forcing distance between them. With a cry, the son of Ares charged at the blonde once more. Naruto crouched midway as the war child neared him. Just as he was a few inches away, the son of Zeus jumped over the boy and watched as the son of war meat-faced a trunk with a tree. Naruto snickered slightly as the boy dropped his spear and slumped down, his face still on the tree. It never failed to crack him up. He started to head back to the flag before Luke, followed by his siblings and a few of Apollo's children, busted through the woods and saw the son of Zeus. Blue eyes met and a silent challenge was made. Without a moment's notice, both Naruto and Luke rushed for the flag. The son of Hermes seemed to gain the upper hand due to his longer legs and years of training. Naruto smirked at this and planted his hands on the ground, much to Luke's confusion, and did a front flip, which started a chain of various acrobatic and complicated flips. Naruto snagged the flag a millisecond before Luke and held the long red cloth in victory. "Looks like I win this time," he boasted proudly. Luke looked at the younger blonde and just knew he had a cheeky grin underneath his mask. The son of Hermes rolled his eyes playfully. "Fine. I'll give you this victory, you earned it," he answered. "Let's go," he ordered, and the group started to run. Soon after they ran, the Hephaestus kids, who had been actually tailing Luke's group for some time, chased after them as the son of Zeus held the flag. Halfway to the creek, Naruto pulled the flag away from Luke when he noticed the older blonde attempting to snatch it. "Seriously?" Luke only shrugged in response. "I'm a son of Hermes, it's in my blood," he defended. Naruto narrowed his eyes when he glanced back at the relentless demigods chasing after them. He started running faster, vaulting and flipping over various stumps, even as he held the banner. The trick. Naruto heard and saw Claris on the ground nearby, holding a broken spear with Percy a few feet away from the brutish girl. She was clearly pissed about something. It was a trick. Despite this, the whiskered boy continued and stopped in friendly territory, skidding to a stop. The rest of the blue team saw him and exploded into cheers. They'd won, the evidence being that the red banner shimmered and turned gold. The boar and spear replaced with a large lightning bolt, an obvious symbol for Cabin 1. Naruto gave out a surprised yell when his teammates picked him up. "The hell?" he squawked as they carried him around their shoulders, cheering all the way. Chiron galloped out from the woods just as they finished their parade and let the blonde blow the conch horn. The game was over. They won. Naruto removed his helmet and looked around the cheering campers and smiled along with them. "Naruto." The blonde steadied himself as he caught Annabeth, whose arms wrapped around him in a tight embrace. The girl pulled away and the child of Zeus saw a bright smile on her face as she clung to him. "We won," she shouted excitedly. Naruto chuckled. "Yep, we sure did, Annie-chan." Annabeth smiled before she realized what she was doing and quickly let go of the boy, her cheeks burning as she did. "Naruto." The blonde turned once again when he heard his name and saw Percy, who oddly looked fine, run up to him with a smile on his face, just wanted to say congrats on winning the game. He praised. The son of Zeus smiled back, a bit embarrassed. "We wouldn't have won if you weren't there, Percy," he said. Percy rubbed the back of his neck sheepishly, looking down. "It's nothing, really," he trailed off. The blonde only chuckled. "If it weren't for you, Claris would have tried to stop me from getting the flag. So you really helped us back there." Before Percy could respond, the group carried Naruto once again and started to do another rotation. After 5 minutes, the impromptu rotation stopped and Naruto stood among the many cheering campers, enjoying the festivities. Until a howl ripped through the forest and the cheering instantly died down. Chiron shouted something in Greek, which translated to "stand ready. My bow." The blonde saw Annabeth drawing her sword as Percy looked confused while in the direction of the howl. On the rocks, just above them, was a feral hellhound, its lava-red eyes glaring menacingly. Looking straight at Percy. Naruto reached a hand out as Annabeth yelled for Percy to run. Too late. He watched hopelessly as he saw Percy get shredded through, leaving the boy in a bloody mess. It snarled before swiveled around, locking sights on him. It let out another howl before charging at the son of Zeus. He had to something. Anything. Wait. Naruto looked back at his gauntlets, the words of his sire going back to him. Think of a weapon. The blonde concentrated. He needed a ranged weapon, any ranged weapon. Think. Uzumaki. Think of a ranged weapon. Naruto snapped his eyes open in realization. Wait. The hellhound leapt at him before. The sound of a metallic crack filled the air. And the hellhound was sent flying before dissolving into golden dust. The campers turned their heads to the direction of the sound. Naruto stood there, his arms outstretched, holding twin bronze pistols that had lightning bolts on each gun, the barrels smoking slightly. The son of Zeus noticed this, and the pistols quickly reverted back to his gauntlets. "Immertails," Annabeth exclaimed, looking pale. "That was a hellhound from the fields of punishment. They're not supposed to." "Someone summoned it," Chiron said, his voice rumbling. "Someone inside camp." Blue came over, worry on his face. "It's all Percy's fault. Percy summoned it." Clarice yelled angrily. "Be quiet, child," Chiron coldly told the girl. "You're wounded," Annabeth looked at Percy. "Quick, get in the water." "I'm okay," Percy croaked out. "No, you're not," Annabeth argued sternly. "Chiron, watch this," she urged the trainer. Percy, with the help of Naruto, stood and the son of Zeus helped him to the creek. The camp surrounding the black-haired boy. Instantly, the cuts on his chest were closing up. Some of the campers gasped. Naruto blinked in surprise before another unsavory image popped in his head but forced it away. He did not want to remember that experience. The sky child looked up when something appeared above Percy's head and his eyes widened. This wasn't good. "Look, I don't know why," Percy tried to apologize. "I'm sorry." Though they weren't staring at his healing wounds, no, they were staring at something above his head. "Percy," Annabeth started, pointing above his head, By the time he looked up, the sign was already fading, but he could make out the hologram of green light, gleaming and spinning. A three-tipped spear. The trident. "Your father," Annabeth muttered, looking back and forth between him and Naruto. "This is really not good." "It is determined," Chiron announced. All around Percy, campers started kneeling, even the Ares cabin, though they didn't look happy about it. Naruto knelt as well. "My father." "Poseidon," Chiron answered, "Earthsaker, Stormbringer, father of horses. Hail. Perseus Jackson. Son of the sea god." He felt it. It was like acid. Acid that ripped his skin apart like he was made out of paper, tearing at the seams. He felt it seep in and gets into his eyes and lungs. He felt everything. Everything all at once, and it was too much. Odds. It was too much. It hurt, his stomach twisted and churned, knots forming. He felt his soul, his spirit, everything escaping from the underworld in Hades' grasp, forcing him back from the dead. The pain was unbearable, whispers from the damned reached his ears, telling him to hurt. Maim. Harm. Kill. He wanted to scream. But he couldn't. He felt submerged, drowning endlessly in something he couldn't see. He reached his hand upwards to get back to the surface, clawing in the acidic-like liquid he was trapped in, struggling relentlessly to stop the torture he was in. Finally, for what felt like eternity, he felt his hand shot up from the green water and cool air tingling his skin. The hand grabbed his arm and pulled him out, exposing all of his body into the cool air. He coughed and hacked as he laid on the cold, stone ground, feeling someone laying him on their lap, slim hands holding his back and legs in an attempt to make him comfortable. Despite the pain, he opened his eyes. And blue eyes met green. Long, brown hair cascaded down a beautiful face was the first thing he saw aside from her green eyes. He tried to speak, but the woman shushed him gently as her fingers raked his blonde hair soothingly, like a mother would to a child. "Do not talk, rest," the woman instructed, her voice soft yet firm. And rest he did. The next morning, Percy was moved to cabin 3 by Chiron. That meant he didn't have to share with anybody. He had plenty of room for his stuff, just one set of clothes and toiletries. He got to sit at his own dinner table, pick all of his activities, call lights out whenever he felt like it, and not listen to anybody else. Simply put, he was miserable. Just when he started to feel accepted, to feel that he had a home in cabin 11 and he might be a normal kid, he'd been cut out as if he was the plague. Nobody mentioned the hellhound, though the son of Poseidon had a slight suspicion that they were all talking about it behind his back. The attack scared everybody. That made him realize he was the son of the sea god. And that monsters would stop at nothing to kill him, just like with Naruto. Going as far as invading camp, a place that was always considered safe for demigods. For the first day with Naruto, nothing had happened, so everyone thought it was okay, but with that hellhound, everything had changed. At least his cousin, yes, he had a cousin now, had a few people like Luke from Hermes, Will from Apollo, along with some of his siblings, and Annabeth. He had only one, since the other campers steered clear from him as much as possible. Annabeth still taught him Greek, but she seemed distracted. Every time he said something wrong, she would scowl at him, as if he offended her or something, then they would argue back and forth. It got so bad that Naruto had to actually be the voice of reason and had to calm both of them down. He was honestly a little put out that she was way more friendly to Naruto, but the black-haired boy shrugged it off. He wasn't the one with an obvious crush on the son of Zeus. How Naruto didn't see the signs, Percy didn't know. Seriously? He couldn't be that dense. Haben 11 was too nervous to have sword class with Naruto after what he did to the Aries kids in the woods, so his lessons became Luke teaching just him and Percy, who now joined them. He pushed the two of them harder than ever and was pretty tough on Percy too, even though he was a complete newbie and he wasn't afraid to bruise the two up in the process. As he worked on his reps and warm-up, Percy peered to the side, seeing Luke placing Naruto in front of a set of straw-stuffed dummies in Greek armor, similar to the way they practiced before. He watched as Luke got him started with advanced techniques in stabbing and slashing. He did it with ease and perfection, as if he'd done it before. And to be honest, Percy was kinda envious with how his cousin was already advancing faster than him. But it was to be expected, Percy mused. Despite how short they've known each other, Percy could see that Naruto had done this kind of thing before and probably mastered it. He'd seen the way the blonde hit and fight. Although the son of Poseidon was rather poor when it came to intelligence, Percy was a bit proud to say that he was at least battle smart, which he found out when he studied Naruto during Capture the Flag. His body screamed that he was angry, but Naruto held it back. Every flip and subtle movement Percy saw the son of Zeus do spoke volumes to him. Percy snapped out of his musings when he heard Luke call his name, and the black-haired boy quickly went to work on the straw-stuffed dummies. Soon after, the three moved on to sparring, and Percy was picked first, much to the boy's nervousness in facing the scarred blonde. "Don't die, Aqualad." Naruto's comment was not helping. They had two fast matches, and Percy lost the previous two, currently moving to their third one. The son of Poseidon got his butt handed to him almost immediately once the two matches started, though Luke assured him that he just needed more practice. Currently, Percy barely dodged a thrust from Luke and used his shield to block a kick. The black-haired boy, in return, slashed at the scarred blonde, who blocked and sent Percy down with a rough shove. "Whoa." Naruto cheered from the sidelines, "Kick his ass." "Whose side are you even on?" Percy yelled as he evaded another slash from Luke. "The one with the sword." Naruto grinned cheekily. Percy deadpanned, but yelped when he got knocked down and found a sword to his throat. "You need to focus more, Percy," Luke advised as he got up and gave the younger boy a hand. "I blame my ADHD." The son of Poseidon groaned, gratefully accepting the older boy's hand as he stood up, rubbing his back. "We all do, but you need to overcome that if you want to get serious," Luke said seriously. Percy nodded weakly and walked towards the side. The son of Zeus patted his cousin's back with a grin. "It's okay, Aqualad. You'll get it soon." Percy's eye twitched at his nickname. "I hate you." "Love you too, cuz." "With all my hate." On the inside, Percy smiled. Since the revelation of his sire, Naruto started spending most of his free time hanging out with him or Annabeth. Add the time they spent training with each other, made Percy question the son of Zeus. He explained that he was an orphan at birth and he was an outcast at that, so when he found out that he had a cousin, he didn't waste time to get to know him. That made Percy feel better, knowing that he had someone there for him. It felt nice. Naruto laughed before turning around and jogging towards the sparring space. Naruto looked down as he sat on his bed, fiddling with the black, pajama-looking clothing that the guards gave him. It was a few days after his resurrection. After the woman Talia took him under her care and filled him in. They managed to find his body in the rubble that was once a warehouse. And took him to what she called the Lazarus pit. The pit that could actually resurrect or prolong one's life. Something that Talia's father, Raz Al Ghul, used to ensure his youth, making him practically immortal. But it didn't come without a side effect. Most who would use the pit would usually go insane, crazy, mad. And he felt them. Those who failed to get revived. Their whispers haunting him, urging him to kill the bastard who beat him with a crowbar and left him to die in a warehouse. The bastard that cut a bloody scathe through Richmond and did it with a smile. Naruto wanted to feel anger, any emotion really. But he couldn't. He was numb. Emotionless. Footsteps hit Naruto's ears as the door to his room opened. Talia came inside, followed quickly by a girl. Though, he didn't really look at her, focusing on his clothing. "Sit." Talia quietly commanded the girl, gesturing towards the chair that faced Naruto. The girl didn't respond to the command as much as she did to the overwhelming need to get off of her feet. The boy hardly moved, his head looking down, his chest rising and falling, along with him fumbling with his clothing, was the only signal that he was living still. His stillness pulled her in, she could feel his body screaming out that he didn't want to be here. It was that feeling of distress that made her sit in the chair. "This is Naruto, he needs your help," Talia instructed. The words to attempt communication with the girl, though she knew it was futile. She couldn't speak and didn't know as much about language as she did people. It made her feel better. It made the whole situation seem more human. It made it a little less hopeless. The girl could hear Talia leave, but her attention was invested in this boy. She'd never seen anything like this, someone so alive but so emotionless. She glanced down at his hands that continued to hold the cloth of his outfit and used her hand to hold both of his hands, and almost immediately, color flooded his cheeks. In a corner of the room, someone was observing the interaction and took notes on the change. It was the first they'd seen in him since he'd arrived. Since his resurrection, Naruto felt something in his chest. There was something about this girl that made him feel. All he could think about was how much he wanted to just be able to see her face. If he could just manage to turn his head. He stopped concentrating on this thought when he felt her fingers brush over his cheek. It was strange. He'd forgotten what this type of contact was like. Every now and then Talia had tried to hold him, but there was something missing. This felt genuine, it felt different. He wanted more of that feeling he got when she touched him, it made breathing a little easier. He was slowly becoming aware of his head turning towards her, guided by her hand. Another note was written down by the man at the corner of the room. He'd always either been too stiff or was just generally blank and emotionless when someone touched him. He was surprised when he was able to look at her. He'd expected someone older than himself, another expert that Talia had sent to figure out how to fix him, not this girl. She was small, but around his age. He noticed little things like her lips at first and the way they curved in the middle. Her eyes gave away her background, but they were warm brown rather than the muddy brown he was used to seeing. He scanned over what he could see of her and noticed a few wounds. Scarred over and fresh. Her hair was jet black and framed her face, it strangely fit her. Beyond that everything about her was soft and comforting to him. His eyes flashed back to the wounds and she could feel his distress over them. She was quicker to rest her hand on his arm this time, she knew it was the best way to let him know what's going on. It didn't seem to make him feel better, she sensed frustration and his body screaming again. Emotionless. He couldn't feel anything. His breathing quickened. He felt suffocated. Panic rushed through her for a moment and she was afraid she'd lose him. She liked him. Liked being able to converse with him, it made her feel a little less lonely. A little more relaxed. The last thing she wanted right now is to lose that so quickly. The girl moved her hand from his arm to the center of his chest, pressing down just a little. He moved his gaze from the wounds to her eyes again. His breathing slowed down and she smiled. They heard footsteps. Naruto found he couldn't move his eyes away from her. He didn't mind so much, she made him feel something. She knew they'd come together, who knew how long she'd been here with this boy. She balled her fingers into a fist on his chest, slowly uncurling them and hoped he understood. She would be back. Ready for this, Luke? Naruto asked with a smirk, his gauntlets shifting to his blades. At the other side, Luke held up his sword and shield before going into a stance. Ready if you are. Then the son of Hermes quickly moved. It was hard to tell how he knew, but something in his body told him it was time for the part of the day he actually looked forward to. Even though it had become routine, Naruto would experience a rush of something every time it happened. It being the point during the day when she would visit. He always felt something every second she was in that room with him. It was nice having someone who could understand him. Though she couldn't speak, he had a feeling she appreciated having someone who knew what she was trying to say. According to those observing them, their sessions were helping the two of them progress. Naruto didn't doubt their findings. But Naruto felt something was off. She should be here by now, right? Did something in her training went wrong? He felt his breathing quickening as one thought led to another. What if Roz decided he didn't need her anymore? His panicking ceased. What if Talia was keeping her from him? Naruto quickly stood up with one goal. Find her. He'd been outside of his room many times for training and observation, but the hallways and doors looked entirely foreign to him. The layout was confusing and most of the doors were locked. He didn't really understand why anyone would need so many doors anyways. Despite this, he bumbled through the doors and hallway with slight desperation, a small and familiar, yet at the same time foreign, tightening in his chest. After a few minutes of searching, he found himself in another hallway. This door was open. He rushed inside and almost toppled over in the rush. And he saw her. She was sitting on her bed, her back to the door, and looking out the window the bed was pressed against. He felt his body relax, the pain in his head dissipate. His feet were carrying him on their own, his mind somewhere else, until he dropped to the floor and sat down. His legs crossed and she turned slowly, sensing that someone was in the room. Her expression was calm, but her nose wrinkled the way it might if she were to laugh, and the way her eyes lit up made Naruto feel something. It was surprising that she didn't, considering him looking like a puppy who'd found his way home. Her feet quickly found the floor. And she soon sat down across from him. She took his hand and formed hers into a fist before pushing it into his palm. It was something quirky she did, if either of them could speak he would ask her why she does it, but that wasn't possible or important. Naruto felt the corners of his mouth twitch, felt a pang of emotion spread in his chest, though it didn't feel painful or tiring. It felt nice. She smiled in return and wriggled a bit in her spot, clearly excited. Warmth spread across his face and the feeling returned, but it was stronger. Standing by the doorway, Talia looked smug as she glanced at her father, smug that she'd proven the girl does actually help the boy progress. Roz watched the interaction silently, ignoring his daughter's face. Yes, this could work. Every now and again she would reach out to touch him or brush away the hair from his eyes. When she did, she'd run her fingers through his hair and tickle his scalp. He'd shudder, his nerves waking up. She saw something change in his eyes. Disappointment. Instinctively she looked over her shoulder to see the sun falling slowly in the sky. The sun fell, and always the two knew they would be separated again. In the morning they would wake. She would be off to another training session, he would also do his training and wait for the physicians to poke and prod him. He thought it was ridiculous that they were still around, but Talia seemed to think it was still necessary. His chest felt tight again, he didn't want to face whatever his sleeping mind was going to show him. The hideous grin and twisting, deranged purple eyes always stared back at him in his sleep. Naruto didn't know he was trembling, only when the girl silently pulled herself close to him, her head resting on his chest as he started to calm down. She placed her palm over his heart and curled it into a fist. He wondered for a moment why it was always the fist when they said hello or goodbye. He knew what she meant though. "I'll be back. You can get through this. I believe in you." Luke grunted and dodged a thrust from Naruto. But he didn't notice the younger blonde's kick, which sent him skidding back a bit. Analyzing his movements told a lot, but not nearly as much as Luke wanted to know. He had been trained to fight by several people. He could see the imprints of various fighting styles that he had seen from modern martial arts to training the more militaristic children of Ares had before being sent to camp. Luke saw that Naruto had blended their styles and added he didn't know what to call it. There was control in his movements, but also recklessness. Maybe that was it. Naruto didn't plan out his moves. Everything was done on instinct. Naturally, all demigods knew how to fight, it was in their blood to fight, it was natural. But this was more than instinct, Luke could see it in Naruto. He was angry. Luke had never seen so much anger and violence in a person. His anger drove him, consumed him, and made him strong. Yet, the son of Hermes could see that Naruto held back, a lot. There was no denying it. Naruto used his anger to deepen the blows and harden himself to those he fought, despite him holding back and pulling his punches. He was fast too. Every movement was a part of him. Just what did his pseudo-little brother do during those 6 years? Ever since Talia pulled her separation stunt on the two, it was decided that the best thing for everyone was not to disrupt the schedule that had been set for so long. The girl padded down the hallway for her usual visit to Naruto's room. It seemed this week Roz wanted to push her to her limits. Since she felt a bit more exhausted than her previous sessions. She felt like he was preparing her for something. But that didn't stop her, she still continued to Naruto's room. When she entered his room, she smiled. But her expression changed quickly. His bed was empty. She knew he was in no condition to leave his room. She found that out when guards told how the blonde boy seemed to push himself more in his training, just so that he could see her. But it seemed he bit more than he could chew and was confined to his bed. Talia made sure of that. So she ran back down the hallway to find Talia. She would be the only other person who might know where he was. As she did, she stopped in front of a room that she hadn't taken the time to look at before. Talia was wrapping a type of headscarf around a boy's head. He was clothed in a long tunic and seemed rather rigid. She stood in the doorway, watching and trying to figure out what was going on. She watched as Talia hugged the blonde, as would a mother do to her son. "Oh, Naruto," Talia sighed, dropping her arms to her sides, "I know this idea is a little scary, but it's all I've got." The girl's eyes widened. She recognized the sound of his name. Talia had said it so many times to her that it was almost impossible not to associate his face with the sound. Talia turned, grabbing Naruto's wrist to lead him out of the room and saw the girl. "Of course, you'd come looking for him." Talia pushed past her, and the girl read everything she could within seconds. Talia was angry and determined, yet concerned, much like she had been the first time she brought the girl to see Naruto. The boy, on the other hand, was still emotionless and blank as ever, but she could see hints of confusion and nervousness. She made a quick decision to follow them, to make sure he'd be okay. They came to a room that both Naruto and the girl recognized. Well, they recognized the door anyways. It was grand and always locked. They were always steered away from it. Now, Talia was heading straight for it. When they entered, the air felt hot and dry, and the walls looked like a mix between a cavern and a sacrificial chamber. A pool of glowing, sickish green liquid filled most of the room and seemed to be the source of heat. Naruto looked at the liquid with familiarity, but still his blank look remained. Talia had a look of regret as she put her hands on Naruto's shoulders. "I'm sorry," she muttered. and pushed him into the liquid. As if she had predicted the girl's next actions, Talia held her back with her hands. "This will be good for him, but I'm not so sure it'll help you." Talia's voice held a bit of pain as she continued to hold the struggling girl back. The girl watched in horror as Naruto sunk into the liquid once more, waiting to see if he rose again. It took time, but eventually he broke the surface, screaming in agony. The last thing she saw before Talia shuddered from the room was his pained face. His emotions returned, but the screams and whispers of those who failed to be revived haunted him once again. It was months before she would see him again. She had improved greatly in her skills, but once training was over she would take her meals in her room or stare out the window by her bed. His pain still scratched its way to the front of her mind every day. The day was another training session. She didn't know why, but these sessions more or less started to irritate her. The various men and women who she sparred with were quickly beaten by her, as if they were the child and she, the adult. Was Roz even trying anymore? Still she made her way to the training ground, prepared for what the old man would throw at her. Her breathing quickened and her chest swelled in happiness when she saw who she was up against. "Hi." Naruto spoke quietly, his face no longer emotionless or dull, but filled with joy when he saw her. Her eyes widened, his voice was deep with a small rumble to it that seemed to come from his throat. "Still can't talk, huh?" He moved forward and sat down, cross-legged. She did the same as she took time to observe him better. She noticed he'd grown taller, more developed. He was so familiar but so different. "You've changed." He looked her up and down. She felt nervous around him now. His body was telling her what he was thinking. "You've grown up too." He looked frustrated as she sat down close to him, staring into his eyes and trying to come to grips with the idea that he was the same boy burning in the pit. "Maybe I can try to teach you how to talk. I can't read you so well now." She liked the sound of his voice, it was soothing. His words sounded stressed though. "Can you say my name? You've heard it enough." Her face scrunched up, trying to understand him. "Naruto, can you say Naruto?" She smiled, she recognized that sound. That was what he was called. He pointed to her trying to convey that she should try it out. She struggled, only able to say ah. Still he smiled, surprised to hear any sound come from her at all. He tried over and over again for her to get it, but even in pieces the vowels seemed to be the only thing she could get. He bit his lip and noticed how intently she watched his mouth, like she was trying to figure out how it made so many interesting sounds. Suddenly, he lit up, his whiskered cheeks going into a grin that made her feel warmth inside. "I've got it." He reached to take hold of her hands again, bringing them to his jaw and mouth. "Naruto." He spoke slowly, moving her fingers so that she could feel the way he made the word come out. Naruto. She spoke as slowly as he had, her nose wrinkled, not quite getting it. He squeezed her hands, lowering them to his chest and smiled. She smiled back, knowing she'd done something he liked. "That's pretty good actually." She traced her fingers over his lips, enough talking. He raised an eyebrow. Heat spread through his face the way it always did when she was around. "Your name's Cassandra, right?" he asked, his head tilting akin to that of a fox. She nodded silently. He grinned again. "You have a pretty name. Cassie-chan." She wriggled a bit as she smiled, lowering her hand to his chest and curling it into a fist. It was like those moments in his room again. Silent, but not quite. He thought for a moment what that fist could mean now. Something told him though. "You're strong. You've made it." Both heard the gates to the side open and the two quickly stood up and ran at the opposite direction before facing each other. Talia, along with her father and guards filled the room and stood in the sidelines. "Are you two ready?" Naruto and Cassandra nodded before they took a fighting stance. "Don't hold back, Cassie-chan." She smiled as he said her name. She didn't know why, but she liked the way he said it. They stared at each other. "Begin." As soon as Talia began the spar, Cassandra lunged. And Naruto blocked the punch Luke aimed his way. The son of Hermes was down a sword and his shield was the only weapon he had. Luke attempted to bash his shield to Naruto's face, but the son of Zeus grabbed the edges of the shield with both of his hands and flipped over him. Luke growled and swiped at him with his shield only for Naruto to duck and send a hard uppercut to the chin. The scarred blonde was sent flying and landed on his rear. Naruto smirked, "Looks like I win." He boasted proudly as he helped the son of Hermes up. The older blonde rolled his eyes playfully, "Still got that cocky attitude I see." He countered. The sky child grinned. "You know it." "Yo. Percy, Naru." Grover called out as he walked towards the arena. Percy looked at Grover as he stretched. "You need something, Groves." "Yeah, Mr. T wants to see you both." 3 years ago. Naruto's pav. I sighed, running a hand through my hair in frustration as I stared at the paper at my desk. Math sucked ass. It had been a full 3 years since Jiraiya, or what I call him Pervy Sage, dropped me back on good old Richmond after 2.5 years of training, so that, in the pervert's words, try a hand in a normal life. PFFT, yeah right. What demigod had a normal life? Regardless, the man insisted and made me go on a program for orphans like me by an old friend of his. Who is his friend, you ask? Well, it's none other than Bruce. Fucking Wayne. That's right. The billionaire playboy that's been funding charities and programs similar to these left and right. 'Cause he can. How Jiraiya managed to befriend one of the most arguably richest people was beyond me. Anyway, I joined the program, more like forced to, and was provided a home, food, and education. I lived at the school, but instead of treating it like a prison I couldn't escape from, I decided to treat it like an opportunity. Pervy Sage never really stayed in Richmond that long when he visited me from time to time. His excuse was that Richmond's gravity made it too hard to leave, so he would usually stay here for 2 days to 1 week at best, before moving on. His loss, I guess. After a few months, I met the man himself. Bruce Wayne. He had personally paid for all the opportunities that were now in front of me. I had one idea why he'd help me, and I owed him big time for that. He and Jiraiya changed my life. Still, something didn't feel right with the guy. The playboy was definitely hiding something. Though I wasn't thinking of that, at least, not now. For now I was alternating my glares to the laptop and paper in front of me. Hoping one or both would catch fire. Let me repeat, math. Sucked. Ass. Still, it was a bit nice to have normalcy once in a while. Sure, a monster would attack every now and then, but it didn't really break my immersion for a normal life. In fact, I just encountered one 3 weeks ago. Well, the guy I fought isn't technically a monster in demigod terms, but that guy sure was a prick. I was just heading back after getting some books for my class, and all of a sudden, the Batman came flying out the alleyway I was about to pass. That's right, the goddamned, or in my case, God's damned, Batman. The hero, vigilante, overgrown rodent, the Bat, you chose what you want to call this guy. I watched as he crashed on a few trash cans to my left before slipping away from consciousness. And then a new voice hit my ears, yo, little help from a kind stranger. I turned around and I saw one of the freaks that started terrorizing Richmond after I disappeared and the Batman to show up. And to my luck, it was that clown. The Joker. Almost everyone in the city, me included, knew this guy from the crap that he pulled a few Christmases earlier. I personally wasn't there, training with Pervy Sage and all, but I saw the news a few years back. And I gotta say, this guy was true to almost every word that people I knew described him as. To sum it all up, he was terrifying as fuck. The deranged purple eyes seemed to swirl as his hideous red lips were curled to a permanent grin, his purple attire crinkled from the straps that was placed on his chest, which connected to a green mech. I think I dropped something. I remember him say. My pupils dilated when I saw his mech's machine gun hand thingy started spinning, and I quickly acted and pushed me and the Bat away from the gunfire. Hey. Hands off my stuff. I heard him exclaim. Don't know what got into me, maybe it was the blood in me to be a hero. But in that moment it was just pretty damn clear. That clown was straight up bad news. I barely managed to get the Bat and me out of the gunfire, but I was thankful that I made it in time. Don't you get it, Junior? Joker called out from the mech. I knocked him out, that's huge for me. First time in months. He cackled. I mean, if I now gotta take time killing you two here, at least another barrage of bullets in front of him. Well, let's just say you can get too much of a good thing. Stupid Bat, why here of all places? I grumbled as I dragged the man with minimal effort down a few stairs to avoid the hail of bullets. I immediately checked the guy's utility belt. Finally, I managed to find some sort of gun-shaped thing in one of the pouches. Was it a gun? Nah, from what I heard, no one ever saw the Bat ever use guns. Period. So I crossed him out the line. Still, I needed to get that clown freak down somehow, so I took it without hesitance. I hope this thing does something cool while I do all the hard work. I sprinted out of the stairs and ran towards the clown at full speed with the Bat something in my hands. The Joker seemed amused by my bold action and laughed, "You're fast, kid. But going serpentine ain't gonna save ya." He cackled and fired more bullets. Naruto glared and aimed the gadget he was holding carefully. Before he pulled the trigger, a steel claw attached to a rope shot out from the gadget and latched on the top bar of the Joker's mech. I wasted no time and slid underneath the mech as it fired. The insane clown looked confused. "Hey Junior, where are you run? Should have stayed off near the school block, team." I shouted as the mech toppled over, slamming the Joker on the ground as he laid there, trapped inside the destroyed mech. I landed on the heap of painted metal as he laughed insanely. "How does this Bat get so many kids working for him? Must be the cape," he guessed as he coughed out a bit of blood. I scowled and took out a spare kunai that I kept hidden at all times and put the tip of my kunai at the side of his forehead. Never depend on machines, I always say, he said, as if I wasn't pointing a fucking knife to his head. They'll screw us to the end. I stayed silent as his eyes looked at me. Is he your daddy? I was about to respond before a bat-shaped boomerang hit my hand, which caused me to drop my kunai. Naturally, I cried out in pain and swiveled my gaze towards the asshole who hit me. That asshole happened to be the bat. He looked at me with narrowed eyes as he stood up. Geez, even when he looks like shit, he still looks intimidating and awesome. Don't pick it up. I grunted in response, nursing my hand while the bat picked the Joker up by his jacket. The Joker didn't seem to mind before his eyes turned to me again. Looks like I gotta go, but don't worry kid, I'll never forget you. I got this thing for faces. Especially ones with whiskers on them. I edged away a bit when the clown started cackling as if he heard a really funny joke. The bat seemed to had enough with the clown's shit, to be honest, I am too. Shut up. He said harshly before punching the clown's lights out. That looked satisfying. I jumped off the pile of metal as the bat thanked me while he threw the Joker on the ground. Thanks for your help. I waved it off as I fixed my orange jacket. Yeah right, no problem, one hand washes the other to bayo. You're forgetting something. I whipped my head around. And saw the bat holding my bag and my kunai. Well shit. I got busted as a minor for weapon charges. Which gave me a record and detention, which always sucked. Add to the fact that Barbara, a cute red-headed friend of mine, kept lecturing me throughout the whole week about being responsible and all that, which also sucked. As I say, all work and no play makes Barbara Gordon a dull girl. She punched me for that, which hurt like you wouldn't believe it, but it was still worth it. After that, exams came in and I had to study for the weekend, and nothing happened between then and now, which gave me hope that I could still have some normal in my life. Well, that all's gonna change. I tapped my pencil on my forehead repeatedly as I stared at the problem in front of me. Man, I wish Annie or Barbara was with me, they'd probably be finished with this in no time flat. Unfortunately, Annie's in camp and Barbie's also studying. Which sucks. But fear not. For Naruto Uzumaki would prevail and defeat this mighty foe. Now, if I could just. IOU. YHH. I dropped my pencil and nearly fell off my seat when the voice startled me. I swiveled my chair and faced the asshole who intruded into my room. That asshole was Batman, again. What is it with this guy? I stood up in anger and faced him. What in Hades do you want now? I already got arrested for the weapon and got detention too. I'm squeaky clean. Batman rose an eyebrow at the mention of the Greek god, but I was too angry, rightfully so, to care. Can't you leave me alone? Be quiet. Before your mouth makes me change my mind. He ordered, which I reluctantly did. It's a one-night tryout. With that he threw me a plain box which I caught easily in my hands. I opened it and my eyes grew wide in shock. Inside the box was a Robin suit, complete with a grappling gun, a utility belt and everything. Barbara is so gonna be jealous. Let's see if you can impress me more than you did 3 weeks ago. I rolled my shoulders as I stood atop the school rooftop and breathed in fresh air with a grin on my face. I now wore a red and black sleeved bodysuit with light armor, the sleeves of my suit not showing skin, and the red parts of my suit acting as light armor for protection. My eyes hidden by a black mask which also covered my whisker marks as to protect my identity. I put the hood over my head to hide my blonde hair, leaving only my bangs to frame my face. 1. I heard a silent thud and turned around to see my soon-to-be mentor, ready to go Robin. He asked, to which I smirked, don't need to ask old man. And with that, both of us took out our respective grappling guns and took off to the night sky. I whooped as I ran on Richmond's buildings with an excited tingle in my chest. The wind seemed to agree as the cold night air tingled my covered skin. On the side, Batman also ran with me, watching me evidently as he did. Taking out my grappling gun, I fired and soon found myself on top of a gargoyle, Batman landing on another. I looked around the bustling city that was Richmond, the honks of cars, the rustling of trees, and the general atmosphere that the city gave. This is so awesome. I muttered quietly. From the side, Batman looked at me sternly. Focus, Robin. He said, and I nodded before crouching down on the gargoyle. Scout the area, see if anything's amiss. My mentor instructed. Taking out my binoculars and did what I was told. The gunshot rang out to our right side. Immediately, I looked in that direction and lowered my binoculars, sounded like it came from downtown Richmond. Batman nodded and looked at me. You know what to do. I smirked. I leapt with no hesitation and fired my grapple and swung to the origin of the gunshot, Batman observing my every move. Soon enough, I landed just a few blocks away from the sound and ran across the rooftops, crossing a 10-foot gap with ease. I ran for a few more blocks before spotting the 2 scumbags down on the street below. They rounded the corner of a building, and I quickly raced ahead of them. I jumped and flipped in mid-air before landing on a fire escape on the next building. I ran to the edge and leapt to the next rooftop, landing with a perfect somersault. Eventually, they stopped at a warehouse. I quickly landed to a building across from it, watching as the two thugs entered rather hastily. I turned my head to Batman. What do we do now? He narrowed his eyes, and his cowl's lenses lit up. He stayed silent for a moment before he looked at me. 7 thugs, unarmed, all guarding stocked weapons. He noted. So let's beat their lights out. I grinned and prepared to jump only for him to grasp my shoulder. No. We need to get closer and plan out an attack, you can't just barge in. He advised. I nodded sheepishly and both of us swung to the warehouse rooftop. We both crouched down and looked down at the several thugs that roamed the warehouse. He spotted a destroyed window and pointed at it. Robin, take out the guards at that side while I take out the guards from the other and destroy their supply. I nodded and walked to the destroyed window before jumping down, careful not to make a sound. I quickly spotted a beam and grabbed a hold of it as I fell down. I gripped the metal beam and flipped before landing on a crate. I quickly landed on the ground quietly and took out the closest guy near me by chopping him on the neck. One down, I murmured silently. Yo, Mikey. You done yet? A new voice called out from the side. I cursed before moving to the side, taking cover behind the crates. Whoa, Mikey. You alright? The voice asked. He started to say. Before a punch to the face knocked him out cold. Do down. After hiding the unconscious bodies, I proceeded with my order and knocked 3 more thugs who all lie on the ground. I took out my grappling gun and aimed at a metal beam from the other side of the warehouse before firing, landing on the beam. I whistled when I saw my soon-to-be mentor putting some kind of gel on each crate before giving me the signal. This is going to be fun. After the first thug walked past, he dropped from the landing on the first with both feet. George. The second one shouted. I quickly moved and disarmed him and then slammed the second thug on a nearby crate. The second one fell, his eyes rolled to his head. Hey. I widened my eyes, then backflipped from an incoming hit from a thug. I took a batarang from my pouch and threw multiple batarangs to the thug. The third thug eyes dilated when he saw the gadget. Shit. He cursed before running towards a weapon cache and tried to open it. Only to get knocked back from the explosion. The third guy rolled over the ground holding his head and stomach. I walked towards him before placing my boot on his head. Then promptly knocked him out. You little shit. Uh-oh. I ducked over a kick before sending one of my own and the uppercutted the last one, sending him down to the ground. Who's the baddest 10-year-old? I am Tebeo. Impressive. I faced my mentor and grinned, but the night's still young. I pouted when he cut off my celebration. We still have work to do. With that, we tied up the criminals, sent an anonymous call to the police and left the warehouse. That first night changed everything for me. From the moment I donned the Robin costume, I knew I would never go back to a normal life. I'd never let the weight of the world drive me down to the dirty streets. Richmond's gravity could be heavy. Sure, but fighting against it, pushing against it. What doesn't kill you make you stronger. Third Pav. During their walk to the big house. Over the Long Island Sound, the sky looked like ink soup coming to a boil. A hazy curtain of rain was coming in their direction. Percy asked Grover if they needed an umbrella. No, the satyr shook his head. It never rains unless we really want it to. Percy pointed at the storm. What the heck is that, then? Grover glanced at the sky uneasily as he answered, it'll pass around us. Bad weather always does. Looks like someone's in the mood, Naruto dryly mused. Grover gained a nervous look as a thunderclap boomed. Like the sky itself was offended by the comment. Naruto deadpanned at the sky, tell me if I'm wrong. He asked the sky. Instead of a boom. A rumble was heard. The son of Zeus smirked, thought so. He said triumphantly before he furrowed his eyebrows. But now that I think about it, Grover's right. He muttered to himself mostly. The storm. It was huge. It was different than the storms he would usually see. It had something to do with Zeus. Probably. At the volleyball pit, the kids from Apollo's cabin were playing a morning game against the satyrs. Castor and Pollux were walking around in the strawberry fields, making the plants grow. Everybody was going about their normal business, but they looked tense. They all kept their eyes on the storm. The 3 walked up to the front porch of the big house. Dionysus sat at the pinnacle table in his tiger-striped Hawaiian shirt with his Diet Coke, just as he had on their first day. Chiron sat across the table in his fake wheelchair. They were playing against invisible opponents, 2 sets of cards hovering in the air. Well, Mr. D drawled without looking up. If it ain't our little celebrities. Both preteens tensed. Naruto crossed his arms and shifted uncomfortably as they waited. Percy glanced at his cousin, noticing his tense body and his eyes darting everywhere. No doubt to plan out any escape should it come to that. Come closer. Mr. D said. And don't expect me to go kowtow to you, mortal. Just because old Barnacle Beard is your father. He glared at Percy. A flash of lightning streaked across the clouds outside, the light briefly throwing Mr. D's face into sharp relief, highlighting his brilliant purple eyes. Even as a strong wind screamed through camp, rattling the windows. Blah blah blah, Dionysus drowned out whatever Zeus was saying through the storm. Tyron feigned interest in his pinochle cards. While Grover cowered by the railing, his hooves clopping back and forth. If I had my way, Dionysus started, I would cause your molecules to erupt in flames. We'd sweep up the ashes and be done with a lot of trouble. But Chiron seems to feel this would be against my mission at this accursed camp. To keep you little brat safe from harm. Spontaneous combustion is a form of harm, Mr. D, Chiron reminded the god. Nonsense, Dionysus waved it off. Boy wouldn't feel a thing. Nevertheless, I've agreed to restrain myself. I'm thinking of turning you into a dolphin instead, sending you back to your father. Mr. D the centaur warned. Oh, alright, Dionysus relented as he sighed. There's one more option. But it's deadly foolishness. Dionysus stood up and the invisible player's cards dropped to the table. I'm off to Olympus for the emergency meeting. If the boy is still here when I get back, I'll turn him into an Atlantic botanist. Do you understand? And Perseus Jackson, if you're at all smart, you'll see that's a much more sensible choice than what Chiron feels you must do. He warned. Dionysus' eyes went to his half-mortal brother, who tensed at his look. Oh, calm down brat. You act as if you're going to be executed tomorrow. He mocked with a grin. Naruto's form didn't waver, to which Dionysus rolled his eyes at great, he has his paranoia, the god muttered to himself. The god picked up a playing card and then twisted it, which became a plastic triangle. Its appearance akin to a credit card or a key card. He snapped his fingers. The air seemed to fold and bend around him. He became a hologram, then a gust of wind, and then he was gone, leaving only the smell of fresh pressed grapes lingering behind. Chiron smiled at the two demigods, but anyone could see that he was tired and stressed. Sit. Naruto, Percy, please. Grover you too. Percy and Grover complied, except for the son of Zeus, whose eyes looked distrustful. Chiron sighed, he had heard a few of Naruto's comments on his and Percy's situation, so his current lack of faith was somewhat expected. Naruto, please, they are not going to kill you. However, an issue of great importance has arisen. Chiron laid his cards on the table, as Naruto tensely took his seat next to him. Tell me, both of you, he said. What did you make of the Hellhound? Just hearing the name made Percy shudder. Naruto frowned, looking down. It scared me, Percy said honestly. If you hadn't shot it, who knows what would have happened. Naruto sighed and ran a hand through his hair. I've already faced things far worse than that before. I don't know why I hesitated. If I didn't snap out of my funk a second too late, I would have been. Chiron gave a sad smile at that. There was nothing to be ashamed of. Many of the other campers were shocked at seeing it too. You'll meet worse, you two. Far worse, before you're done. Tell me something I don't know, Naruto said darkly. Done with what? Percy asked, hesitant. Naruto looked up, probably has to do with that. He guessed, jerking his head towards the rumbling and darkening skies that filled the valley. Request, of course. Will you accept it? Chiron asked Percy. The son of Poseidon glanced at Grover, who was crossing his fingers. Sir. Percy started, you haven't told me what it is yet. Naruto nodded in agreement. Chiron grimaced. Well, that's the hard part. The details. Thunder rumbled across the valley. The storm clouds had now reached the edge of the beach. As far as they could see, the sky and the sea were melding together. Poseidon and Zeus, Percy said. They're fighting over something valuable, something that was stolen, aren't they? Chiron and Grover exchanged looks. The centaur sat forward in his wheelchair. How did you know that? Percy looked flustered. The weather since Christmas has been weird, like the sea and the sky are fighting. Then I talked to Annabeth and she'd overheard something about a theft. And I've also been having these dreams. He explained. Naruto nodded, it's true, our sires are fighting over something, I think it was why we were claimed. He said, some bitterness in his tone. I knew it, Grover said. Hush, Satyr, Chiron ordered. But it is his quest. Or even his. Grover's eyes were bright with excitement while he pointed at the sons of the big three. It must be. Only the oracle can determine that. Chiron said as he stroked his white beard. Nevertheless, both of you are correct. Your fathers are having their worst quarrel in centuries. They are fighting over something valuable that was stolen. To be precise. A lightning bolt. Percy laughed nervously. A what? Naruto's eyes widened. No fucking way, are you serious? He demanded. He knew what was already taken. The blonde heard stories about his father's weapon. A lightning bolt, his most prized tool. One that, alongside the shield Aegis, had been in many stories. He knew for a fact that Thalia had a copy of the famed shield that could scare monsters and demigods alike. Language, Mr. Uzumaki. Chiron frowned at the blonde before turning to Percy. Do not take this lightly, Chiron warned Percy. I'm not talking about some tinfoil-covered zigzag you'd see in a second-grade play. I'm talking about a 2-foot-long cylinder of high-grade celestial bronze, capped on both ends with god-level explosives. How in the fuck does he lose that thing? Naruto asked himself in a whisper, voice full of disbelief. What, he fucking leave it beside his golden toilet or something? Oh. Percy said dumbly. Zeus's master bolt, Chiron said, getting worked up now. The symbol of his power, from which all other lightning bolts are patterned. The first weapon made by the Cyclops for the war against the Titans, the bolt that sheared the top off Mount Etna and hurled Kronos from his throne. The master bolt, which packs enough power to make mortal hydrogen bombs look like firecrackers. And it's missing? Percy asked with a gulp. Stolen, Chiron corrected. By who? By whom? Chiron corrected again. By you. His finger led to Percy. Percy gaped. Naruto openly laughed. We are still talking about Percy, right? He said between chuckles. Guy doesn't know how to steal if his life depended on it. At least Chiron held up a hand, that's what Zeus thinks. During the winter solstice, at the last council of the gods, Zeus and Poseidon had an argument. The usual nonsense. Mother Ray always liked you best, air disasters are more spectacular than sea disasters, etc. Afterward, Zeus realized his master bolt was missing, taken from the throne room under his very nose. He immediately blamed Poseidon. Now, a god cannot usurp another god's symbol of power directly, that is forbidden by the most ancient of divine laws. But Zeus believes your father convinced a human hero to take it. But I didn't, Percy tried to say. Patience and listen, child, Chiron said. Zeus has good reason to be suspicious. The forges of the Cyclops are under the ocean, which gives Poseidon some influence over the makers of his brother's lightning. Zeus believes Poseidon has taken the master bolt and is now secretly having the Cyclops build an arsenal of illegal copies, which might be used to topple Zeus from his throne. The only thing Zeus wasn't sure about was which hero Poseidon used to steal the bolt. Now Poseidon has openly claimed you as his son. You were in New York over the winter holidays. You could easily have snuck into Olympus. Zeus believes he has found his thief. But I've never even been to Olympus. Zeus is crazy. Percy exclaimed. Chiron and Grover glanced nervously at the sky. The clouds didn't seem to be parting around them, as the satyr had promised. They were rolling straight over the valley, sealing the area in like a coffin lid. Percy Grover started nervously. We don't use the C word to describe the Lord of the Sky. More like paranoid, Naruto suggested. He had the experience of knowing paranoid people. Bruce, for example, and then there's himself, which I got from Dad. He thought. Still. Didn't Uncle Poseidon try to unseat Zeus before? Naruto asked. Chiron nodded, correct. He looked at Percy, I believe that was question 38 on your final exam. Something about a golden net. Percy guessed in a rare bout of remembrance. Poseidon and Hera and a few other gods, they, trapped Zeus and wouldn't let him out until he promised to be a better ruler, right? Also correct, Chiron said. And Zeus has never trusted Poseidon since. Of course, Poseidon denies stealing the master bolt. He took great offense at the accusation. The two have been arguing back and forth for months, threatening war. And now, you've come along the proverbial last straw. But I'm just a kid. Percy argued. Do you really think they'd care, Percy? Naruto grunted out. They're gods, for fuck's sake, they wouldn't, they think you crossed them and they'll gun for you. It happened all the time in the legends. Percy, Grover cut in, if you were Zeus and you already thought your brother was plotting to overthrow you, then your brother suddenly admitted he had broken the sacred oath he took after World War II, that he's fathered a new mortal hero who might be used as a weapon against you, wouldn't that put a twist in your toga? Naruto snorted with an eye roll, kinda hypocritical, don't you think? Considering he sired two already, one before Poseidon and another after, mind you. He spoke in a dry tone. He was born in early October while Percy was born in mid-August. Hot meat kettle. Grover looked sheepish at that. But I didn't do anything. Poseidon, my daddy, didn't really have this master bolt stolen, did he? The water child reasoned. Chiron sighed. Most thinking observers would agree that thievery is not Poseidon's style. But the sea god is too proud to try convincing Zeus of that. Zeus has demanded that Poseidon return the bolt by the summer solstice. That's June 21st, 10 days from now. Poseidon wants an apology for being called a thief by the same date. I hope that diplomacy might prevail, that Hera or Demeter or Hestia would make the two brothers see sense. But your arrival has inflamed Zeus's temper, and Naruto's has raised Poseidon's in turn at the hypocrisy of it all. The centaur explained. Now, neither god will back down. Unless someone intervenes, unless the master bolt is found and returned to Zeus before the solstice, there will be war. And do you know what a full-fledged war would look like, Percy? Bad? Percy guessed with a worried look. Imagine the world in chaos. Nature at war with itself. Olympians forced to choose sides between Zeus and Poseidon. Destruction. Carnage. Millions dead. Western civilization turned into a battleground so big it will make the Trojan War look like a water balloon fight. Bad. Percy repeated with a frown. And you, Percy Jackson, would be the first to feel Zeus's wrath. Rain started pouring. Volleyball players stopped their game and stared in stunned silence at the sky. Percy's frown deepened, he had brought this storm to Half-Blood Hill. Zeus was punishing the whole camp because of him. He was furious. So I have to find the stupid bolt, Percy started with narrowed eyes. And return it to Zeus. To be honest with you both, when Naruto was first claimed, I had the intention of sending him on this quest. The trainer admitted, getting the Sky Child to look at him sharply, forgive me for being crude lad, but what other time would Zeus openly admit to siring a second hero, after breaking the oath the first time, than to have claimed you when he needed you most? He asked the blonde. Naruto's jaws tightened, knuckles white, but he let out a bark of laughter. Why the fuck was he even surprised? He was more or less a mistake in this system right now. Looks like he wasn't one, but two of people's mistakes. Honestly. I asked him what he wanted from me my first night in the cabin. Of course. He never said, but here it is. Naruto said low tone, and even then, he get someone else to do it to appease him. Fan-fucking-tastic. He rolled his eyes before glowering in his seat. The centaur sighed and turned to Percy, what better peace offering, Chiron said, than to have the son of Poseidon return Zeus's property. If Poseidon doesn't have it, where is the thing? The green-eyed boy asked questioningly. I believe I know. Chiron's expression changed to grim. Part of a prophecy I had years ago. Well, some of the lines make sense to me now. But before I can say more, you must officially take up the quest. You must seek the counsel of the oracle. Why can't you tell me where the bolt is beforehand? Percy asked, not liking where this was going. Well, even less than he already did, that is. Because if I did, you would be too afraid to accept the challenge. Percy gulped. The son of Poseidon turned to his best friend, who smiled encouragingly. All right, Percy said with a stiff nod. It's better than being turned into a dolphin. Then it's time you consulted the oracle, Chiron said. Go upstairs, Percy Jackson, to the attic. When you come back down, assuming you're still sane, we will talk more. The black-haired boy nodded and ascended the stairs. Naruto's brows furrowed. A part of him was angry. In his mind, he was, no matter how arrogant it sounded, better than Percy. Yeah, in time he would be good, the son of Zeus could tell, but he was still confused by all this. Naruto on the other hand, knew better than him, trained better than him, and overall was just better equipped for the responsibility of a quest like this, especially one this important, at the moment. Naruto was trained by the best of the best. He was trained by the League of Assassins, Batman, and Lady Shiva. People who could take on the entire camp and win. It was his sire's symbol, why should Percy be the one to look for it? Just as the blonde stood up, Chiron's voice stopped him. If you're thinking about leaving, Mr. Uzumaki, Lord Zeus also wishes for you to be on this quest, as much as I disagree on this decision. The son of Zeus rose an eyebrow, why are you against it? Chiron sighed, Percy is allowed 2 additional members on his quest. So normally a quest is done in a group of 3. Well, Percy is allowed his group, your father wishes for you to go along, so when Poseidon's spawn fails. My son will pick up the slack. Chiron finger quoted. His words, not mine. The blonde rolled his eyes, gee dad, don't you have an ego? Then again, the same could be said for him. The centaur sighed, 3 is a sacred and magical number you see, any more on a quest could mean catastrophe, but Lord Zeus insisted on it. How encouraging. Naruto commented with a dry tone, this more or less sounds like he doesn't want his child shown up by his brothers. The blonde waited for the thunder. Aw, no more booms, dad. Chiron gave a smile, I might agree with you, but it isn't my place to question the king of gods. After a few minutes of small talk, the son of Poseidon finally came back from the attic. Well? Chiron asked. She said I would have to retrieve what was stolen. Grover leaned forward, that's great. What did the oracle say exactly? Chiron insisted, this is important. Percy shivered a bit and shook his head. She said I would go west and face a god who had turned. I would retrieve what was stolen and see it safely returned. Knew it. Grover said a little bit smug. However, the centaur didn't look satisfied. Anything else? He asked sternly, clearly wanting everything. Percy looked around nervously. Afraid to say. What friend would betray him? He didn't have that many friends, could Naruto? No, he shook his head. No, he was in on this just as much as he was when he hoped he was right. Naruto glanced at Percy when he saw the distress on his face before shrugging. Chiron studied Percy's face too. Very well, Percy. But know this. The oracle's words often have double meanings. Don't dwell on them too much. The truth is not always clear until events come to pass. Okay, Percy said. So where do I go? Who's this god in the west? Ah, think, Percy, Chiron said. If Zeus and Poseidon weaken each other in a war, who stands to gain? Somebody else who wants to take over? Percy guessed. Naruto, however, did not look amused. Not at all. His face set into a deep scowl and he clenched his fists tightly. Unwanted memories randomly popped up in his head as he took a step back. Naruto. Why don't you just kill me? He's abandoned you, Naru, threw you away like an unwanted puppy. Our uncle. Naruto answered. Think about it, Percy. Chiron nodded. The Lord of the Dead is the only possibility. He's one possibility that I can buy. But the only one? No way. There's got to be others. Naruto pointed out skeptically. Scrap of aluminum dribbled out of Grover's mouth. Whoa, wait. What? But Hades hates all heroes, Grover protested. Especially if he has found out Percy is a son of Poseidon. The hellhound got into the forest, Chiron continued. Those can only be summoned from the fields of punishment and it had to be summoned by someone within the camp. Hades must have a spy here. He must suspect Poseidon will try to use Percy to clear his name or Andy to go for the bolt. Hades would very much like to kill these young half-bloods before either could take on the quest. Great, Percy muttered tiredly. That's two major gods who want to kill me. Naruto scoffed, I got dear Uncle Hades on me and my ever-so-lovely stepmother. I think you have a better chance at surviving more than me. The son of Poseidon rubbed the back of his neck sheepishly. Sorry. But a quest to Grover swallowed. I mean, couldn't the Master Bolt be in some place like Maine? Maine's very nice this time of year. Hades sent a minion to steal the Master Bolt, Chiron insisted. He hid it in the underworld, knowing full well that Zeus would blame Poseidon. I don't pretend to understand the Lord of the Dead's motives perfectly or why he chose this time to start a war, but one thing is certain. Percy and Naruto must go to the underworld, find the Master Bolt, and reveal the truth. Percy's expression fell as he processed the trainer's words. So I basically have to go one of the scariest places in the world, get back a powerful weapon that casually trims the top off mountains, and make it back without missing any limbs or major organs. Sure, okay, this is going to suck. Seriously, how was I supposed to do that? Percy thought before realization struck him. The underworld, the land of the dead. His mom, he could get his mom back. He needed to take this quest. Look, if we know it's Hades, Percy told Chiron, why can't we just tell the other gods? Zeus or Poseidon could go down to the underworld and bust some heads. Seriously, Percy? Are you suggesting our sires, the two of the big three, to go march down the underworld and demand something back from their brother peacefully? The same gods who smite people that badmouths them back in the day. Naruto snorted. Naruto speaks the truth. A battle between the big three is far too inadvisable. Beyond that, suspecting and knowing are not the same, Chiron said. Even if the other gods suspect Hades and I imagine Poseidon does, they couldn't retrieve the bolt themselves. Gods cannot cross into each other's territories except by invitation. That is another ancient rule. Heroes, on the other hand, have certain privileges. They can go anywhere. Challenge anyone, as long as they're bold enough and strong enough to do it. No god can be held responsible for a hero's actions. Why do you think the gods always operate through humans? So we're their pawns in their chessboard. Naruto snarked with a bitter tone on his voice. You're saying we're being used? Percy spoke, frowning at the fact. I'm saying it's no accident Poseidon has claimed you now. It's a very risky gamble, but he's in a desperate situation. He needs you. It was why Zeus claimed Naruto, no doubt intending for him to take this quest, as I said before. Chiron said and looked to the son of Zeus, and I wouldn't say pawns, more like agents. He stated, trying to steer him from that bitter thought process. Percy looked at Chiron. You've known I was Poseidon's son all along, haven't you? I had my suspicions. As I said, I've spoken to the oracle, too. The centaur admitted. So let me get this straight, Percy said slowly. We're supposed to go to the underworld and confront the Lord of the Dead. Correct? Chiron nodded. Find the most powerful weapon in the universe. Yeah, Naruto said. And get it back to Olympus before the summer solstice, in 10 days. Chiron nodded again. The son of Poseidon looked at Grover, who gulped down another can. Did I mention Maine is very nice this time of year, the satyr offered weakly. You don't have to go, Naruto told Grover as he put a hand on his shoulder. We can't ask that of you. I'm already being forced into this. He said with a frown. Oh, the satyr shifted his hooves. No, it's just that satyr's an underground place as well. He took a deep breath, then stood, brushing the shredded cards and aluminum bits off his t-shirt. You saved my life, Percy. He turned to the son of Zeus. And you, Naruto. You've been with through thick and thin 6 years ago. Naruto smiled at him. If both of you are serious about wanting me along, I won't let the two of you down. The sky child grinned, that's the spirit to Bayo. Percy felt incredibly relieved and pleased, all the way, G-man. He said before turning to Chiron and asking. So where do we go? The oracle just said to go west. The entrance to the underworld is always in the west. It moves from age to age, just like Olympus. Right now, of course, it's in America. Where? Naruto blinked and looked at his cousin, shouldn't it be obvious? The entrance to the underworld is at Los Angeles. Oh, Percy nodded. Then let's get on a plane. No. Grover shrieked. Percy, what are you thinking? Have you ever been on a plane in your life? Percy shook his head. Percy, think, Chiron said. You are the son of the sea god. Your father's bitterest rival is Zeus, lord of the sky. Your mother knew better than to trust you in an airplane. You would be in Zeus's domain. You would never come down again alive. Overhead, lightning crackled. Thunder boomed. Okay, Percy said, determined not to look at the storm. But what about Naruto? It's not like he would bomb down his own kid, right? He asked, thinking that it was a no-brainer. Naruto snorted scornfully, he saved my sister by turning her into a tree, who knows what he would do to save me. He said with finger quotes. Add to the fact that he never did jack shit when I died. He added in his mind. So, we'll travel over land. Percy concluded. Chiron nodded. That's right. 2 companions may accompany you. Grover is one. The other has already volunteered if you will accept her help. You mean Naruto? Percy pointed at the son of Zeus. No, Lord Zeus wanted him along for the quest regardless of who you choose. Chiron answered. Well, if it isn't Naruto, then I wonder. Percy said, feigning surprise. Who else would be stupid enough to volunteer for a quest like this? Naruto narrowed his eyes before putting on his hood. Tapping the side of his helmet, the hood's lenses brightened up. The blonde scanned the room before stopping at Chiron. Annie, is that you? The air shimmered behind Chiron. Annabeth became visible, stuffing her Yankees cap into her back pocket. The daughter of Athena immediately raced to her friend and looked at him with wide eyes. How did you know I was here? Naruto simply grinned and tapped his helmet, thermal vision Annie. My helmet can track heat signatures, I know, I'm that awesome. He said, which made Annabeth pout. HMPH. No fair. All's fair in love and war, Annie. The girl turned to Percy. I've been waiting a long time for a quest, seaweed brain, she said. Athena is no fan of Poseidon, but if you're going to save the world, I'm the best person to keep you from messing up. The son of Zeus coughed with a blank look. Well, Naruto too, but I have a feeling I'll be looking out for her also. The blonde looked like he got shot after the girl said that, now that hurts. I thought you loved me, Annie. Annabeth felt her cheeks burn red at the blonde's statement. Shut up, Naruto. And out of pure embarrassment, the girl kicked the sky child in retaliation, causing him to fall to the ground. Ow. My shin. HMPH. Serves you right. After a minute of laying on the ground, the son of Zeus was now back up. So, I suppose you have a plan, wise girl. He teased playfully. Her cheeks darkened a bit more. Do you want my help or not? We need all the help we can get. Percy said before looking at the team. The quartet, Percy said. That'll work. Or blow up in our faces, Aqualad. Naruto pointed out with mirth, or not, who knows. He said with a lazy shrug. Don't call me that. Sure, does Aquagirl sound better? Wano. Naruto grinned, Aqualad it is. Percy grumbled but didn't say anything. Excellent, Chiron said. This afternoon, we can take you as far as the bus terminal in Manhattan. After that, you are on your own. No time to waste, Chiron said. I think you should all get packing. What if Naruto x Annabeth and Percy Jackson end here, and thanks for watching my video till the end.